In eternal darkness, souls cross the river of death on the hellish bridge. The stories of the fallen are forever erased from the memory of their descendants. Those who violate the laws of karma are doomed to eternal torment in the underworld. Farrell wakes up from a nightmare that haunts him again and again. A guy runs in panic to the most important date of his life. Today the young man will propose to his beloved on their anniversary. The hero couldn't buy the ring, but he believes that a gift from the heart will melt her ice. The girl breaks his heart by leaving for another man with words about breaking up. The young man watches the car drive away with pain, not understanding the reasons for the betrayal. Her words about his insignificance without rich parents echo in his mind. A chance encounter with a bully sets off a chain of fatal events. The owner of the broken relic furiously demands that Farrell pay for his carelessness. The guy is completely perplexed as to why he should be responsible for someone else's thing. An aggressive stranger corners a young man, demanding money he doesn't have. The gang leader, enraged by the lack of profit, orders the hero to be brutally beaten. The thugs leave, leaving the beaten guy lying on the ground and taking his phone. Broken and humiliated, the young man blames this cursed object for his misfortunes. In a fit of rage and despair, Farrell throws the relic from the roof, hoping to end the nightmare. Suddenly, a mysterious force erupts from the broken artifact and pierces his body. Waking up in a stream of magical energy, the hero realizes that his former life is over. A digital space opens up before the young man, inviting him to become the creator of his own hell. Farrell is stunned by the absurdity of what is happening, unable to distinguish between sleep and reality. The system mercilessly erases the previous owner who refused to accept the identity of Satan. In a panic, the hero tries to cancel the deal, begging an invisible force to give him a chance. The inexorable countdown to destruction looms over him, leaving no time for reflection. Overcome by fear, the young man rushes to the altar to accept the role imposed on him. In a desperate attempt to survive, the boy tries to stop the giant timer number. At the last moment, the system stops, giving him excruciating relief. Having received the status of the new owner, he demands an explanation for this insane nightmare. The very first task confronts him with the fact that failure means inevitable death. Humiliated and angry, Farrell takes out all his pain on the silent system. The enraged young man challenges Satan himself, not realizing the power he has gotten involved with. At the peak of despair, the guy decides to accept the game and become a real ruler of hell. The dark essence awakened within him grants him power over life and death. A burst of unbridled energy shatters the interface, surprising the hero himself. The system reboots, giving the young man a new, even more dangerous task. Realizing there will be no second chance, Farrell accepts the brutal rules of the game. The digital world collapses, returning him to a deserted and ominous night street. The hero's consciousness is confused by hallucinations until he feels an icy touch on his leg. The disgusting ghost clings to him lovingly, plunging the guy into real horror. In a fit of disgust, Farrell disposes of the ghost, completing the task with surprising ease. The guy is tormented by doubts, because such a simple mission seems like a suspicious catch. The strange creature does not attack, but only circles around like a lost pet. The hero realizes that the ghost, trembling with fear, sees him as its master. Suddenly, the young man feels the presence of a much more powerful and sinister force. An unknown force pulls the young man along the deserted streets of the night city. Having reached the place, the guy can barely stand on his feet from the pressure of the monstrous aura. Under the full moon, he notices a mysterious female silhouette on the roof of a high-rise building. In the ghostly stranger, he recognizes with horror the spirit of a girl named Kirsten. A popular streamer poses cheerfully next to the ghost, turning the tragedy into a creepy show. The streamer notices Farrell below and waves at him flirtatiously, completely ignoring the danger. A girl calls a guy for help with content, causing him to only despise her stupidity. The blogger begins to feel uneasy about the strangeness of her stream as an evil spirit looms over her. Realizing the ghost's intentions, the young man screams in horror at her to run, hoping to save her life. The heroine is completely confused, not understanding what mortal threat is threatening her. Kirsten drops her mask, her face contorting into a grimace of pure, unadulterated rage. The young man uses his strength to protect himself from the spirit's crushing aura. His little ghost pet hiccups with fear and admiration before the power of the master. An enraged entity leaps from the roof, intending to tear its carefree victim to pieces. The spirit suddenly changes its target and attacks the hero, beginning his new deadly mission. Farrell understands that the system only reveals the details of a task after it has been completed. He gains new skills as he fights his enemies, but this fight started without any rules. The lack of instructions for the new task leaves the boy confused and anxious. Kirsten's ghostly hair instantly grips him in a deadly grip. The streamer cynically comments on his agony, turning his death throes into hype-filled content. A girl receives donations from viewers while the hero's life hangs in the balance on live television. Even in the spirit's captivity, The young man desperately tries to save the blogger from her terrible fate. In a last-ditch effort, he orders his pet ghost to attack the vengeful Kirsten. Unbearable pain pierces the hero's body, and his cry of despair echoes in the night. The carefree streamer is still unaware of the mortal danger, floating in the clouds of hype. Farrell's gaze is fixed on the girl, because it is her he is desperately trying to save. Even in his agony, the boy again screams for her to run, while his faithful ghost comes up with a plan. The little spirit fearlessly rushes at the vengeful Kirsten, trying to distract her attention. The heroine drops the phone in horror as the young man and his savior are thrown into the air. Blinded by hatred, the ghostly maiden tightens her grip, intending to crush the hero. The faithful assistant finds the enemy's vulnerable spot, licking her ghostly leg with pleasure. Taken aback by the unexpected attack, Kirsten loosens her grip, giving Farrell a chance to counter. The young man seizes the moment to seize the initiative and powerfully slam the spirit into the asphalt. Exhausted but not broken, he holds the fallen avenger, achieving a hard-won victory. Realizing that there will be no mercy, Farrell decides to act ruthlessly, not giving the enemy a chance. He orders his ghost to devour Kirsten, but it only shyly falls in love with its victim. The faithful assistant hesitates, but the stern order of the master leaves him no choice. In a rage, the boy forces his servant to begin absorbing the vengeful spirit. The little ghost begins to absorb Kirsten's essence, condemning her to a painful oblivion. The exhausted hero realizes with relief that this nightmarish battle is finally over. Kirsten's final scream, full of hatred, echoes through her consciousness, refusing to disappear. Her dying resentment releases a powerful energy that blinds the young man. A mysterious power transforms his vision, granting him the legendary yin-yang eyes. The system declares victory, and his ghost assistant evolves into a new, more powerful form. To Farrell's surprise, the defeated Kirsten did not turn into a spineless puppet. The enraged spirit does not understand why she is called a puppet and what is going on at all. The hero, holding the streamer in his arms, is himself confused by the outcome of the battle. The Phantom Maiden realizes that her plans for revenge are now in jeopardy. Suddenly her body is paralyzed by an invisible force, depriving her of any ability to move. She realizes with horror that the young man and his servant are controlling her. The face of the vengeful entity is distorted by rage and powerlessness before an unknown force. The young man tries to make sense of the chaos, because the mission should have ended completely differently. For the first time, fear of this strange guy flashes in the formidable Kirsten's eyes. Despite this, she rushes into attack, but the hero resolutely stands up to defend the girl. The Phantom Maiden's blow bounces off an invisible barrier, leaving her completely bewildered. The system announces that the task is not completed, plunging the young man into even greater confusion. In a mental dialogue, the boy and the spirit try to understand which of them broke the rules of this game. Farrell claims his right to become Satan, a revelation that leaves the ghost in shock. Having put the streamer to bed, the hero naively believes that his crazy mission is finally complete. Suddenly he realizes that the ghostly entity is connected to him and sees system messages. The ghost girl takes this meeting as a sign of fate, seeing the young man as her savior. She begs him to help her take revenge, believing that this is his divine mission. Completely confused, the guy tries to figure out what tragedy turned her into a spirit of vengeance. Zoe begins her story about the demon who haunted her in life for refusing her love. In a fit of rage, Zoe reveals that her stalker has brutally abused her. The Phantom Maiden is shocked by the boy's compassion, not expecting such humanity from the future Satan. The next morning, the streamer wakes up with complete amnesia about yesterday's horrific events. A sudden scream from her so-called brother Brian makes the girl shudder in horror. On the street, that same obsessive admirer is waiting for her with a bouquet and a crazy proposal. Kirsten looks in disgust at the bastard who came to haunt her again. In a panic, the heroine decides to ignore him, hoping that he will simply disappear from her life. She tries to drive away the obsessive suitor, but he is already knocking on her door. The girl is horrified by his disgusting methods and how quickly he found her. Turning around, she is shocked to see Farrell in her living room, not understanding what he is doing there. Farrell sarcastically explains that as a neighbor, he doesn't feel strange being in their shared home. An irritated Kirsten demands to know why he's not at work, ignoring the knock on the door. The guy bitterly reports that after yesterday's losses, his home will become the sofa. Brian's insistent voice behind the door makes the girl's blood run cold with horror. In a panic, the heroine covers the young man's mouth, begging him to remain silent, while the door slowly opens. The stalker enters the apartment without a key, offering her a ring with a crazy smile. The awkward closeness of the heroes caught off guard creates a tense spark between them. The young man angrily attacks his neighbor, demanding to know where the stranger got the key from. The streamer furiously grabs the stalker, demanding to know how he dared to break into her house. Brian, with a smug grin, declares that it took him a couple of minutes to get the key to her house. Farrell steps away from the frantic scene with feigned indifference, trying to figure out who this guy is. Kirsten panics and explains that this crazy guy named Brian is stalking her for no reason. Suddenly, the name Zoe mentioned pops into the hero's mind, and the puzzle begins to come together. The stalker, ignoring everyone, with obsession in his eyes, makes the streamer a long-awaited proposal. The enraged girl abruptly rejects him, shouting that she doesn't even know this madman. The young man stands decisively between them, making it clear that their conversation is not over yet. Enraged by the intrusion, Brian angrily attacks the guy, demanding that he not interfere with him. The heroine screams in horror, fearing that her protector will now be seriously harmed at the hands of the maniac. The young man easily blocks the blow, surprising his pursuer with his unexpected reaction. Farrell himself is shocked by his own strength, not believing that he was able to pull off such a trick. Humiliated and defeated, Brian flees, hurling threats and leaving behind only crushed flowers. Kirsten panics and warns Farrell that his actions will have very serious consequences. The young man is still in shock from his own strength, while the girl tries in vain to convey to him the full danger of the situation. In her imagination, a terrible picture of revenge is already being painted, where the stalker returns with a whole army of thugs. The hero, on the contrary, excitedly declares that next time he will control his strength and simply beat him to death. Absolutely carefree, the young man decides to take a nap, putting off the reprisal against the offender for later. Feeling guilty, the girl decides to stop Brian herself in order to protect Farrell, who is drawn into her trouble. In desperation, she calls the influential Mr. Lyle, begging him for help in this difficult matter. On the other end of the line, the surprised boss learns that the streamer wants to put an end to this story with his help. His assistant, with a vulgar grin, suggests using the situation to his own dirty ends. Mr. Lyle, with a devilish grin, decides to take advantage of the situation to deal with both of them with one blow. Under cover of night, the heroes drive up to a luxury hotel, unaware that it is an enemy lair. Kirsten introduces Farrell to the boss's assistant, naively believing that he will help solve their problem. In the tense silence of the elevator, the girl insists on an apology, completely unaware of the catch. Invisible to others, the ghostly Zoe promises the guy her support, advising him not to interfere for now. The guide's smug look leaves no doubt that this elevator ride will end in big trouble. The doors open into a luxurious room, where an ambush of formidable guards is already waiting for them. In the center of the room, Brian himself sits at the table, surrounded by his gang and the insidious Mr. Lyle. One of the stalker's friends jumps up in rage, accusing the young man of humiliating their friend. As enemies continue to enter the room, the streamer is horrified to realize that her boss has betrayed her. Mr. Lyle reveals his true nature, revealing himself to be the mastermind behind this cruel game. With a mad grin, the stalker welcomes his victim to the domain he considers rightfully his own. The girl is forcibly grabbed by the villain's henchmen, and her cries for help are drowned out in the icy silence of the room. The antagonist mockingly reminds the hero of his morning courage, enjoying his power. His sick imagination revels in the moment as he humiliates his captive with sadistic pleasure. Farrell confirms his enemy's words with icy calm, leaving him completely confused. The villain orders his men to attack to see how long the young man can remain calm. Two mercenaries with knives rush at the guy, intending to deal with him quickly and brutally. Before they could even touch him, the attackers turned into smoke, leaving everyone in mute shock. The hero easily intercepts the villain's hand, coldly informing him that he himself asked for this meeting. Farrell gently reassures a frightened Kirsten, promising her an unforgettable performance. A vengeful Zoe appears before the main villain, and his face is distorted by a grimace of animal horror. The boss's assistant, in a cold sweat, realizes that this inconspicuous guy is behind all this devilry. He tries to save face, but his nervousness betrays his fear of an inexplicable force. Realizing that his reputation is at stake, the boss decides to get rid of the hero at any cost. One of the thugs steps forward with mad excitement, ready to smash the offender's skull. The traitor panics and yells at his subordinate, accusing him of messing with the wrong person. The punk charges forward, but freezes in place as the boy begins the countdown to his destruction. Suddenly the fighter goes crazy, and with a wild roar he bites into his own boss's hand. Screams of pain and horror fill the room as the crazed punk continues to torment his master. The boss's cry of pain echoes through the room as his own man, in a wild fit, breaks his nose. Farrell calmly holds a tearful Kirsten, whose world has just collapsed, close to him. He promises the girl with a confident smile that everything is fine, enjoying the chaos he has created. The once self-confident stalker now lies on the floor, paralyzed by animal terror. A mysterious observer in glasses finds this bloody spectacle truly interesting. With a cold calculation, he leaves the room, believing that Brian was simply unlucky to encounter such a force. Zoe realizes with horror that this man sees her, and this detail does not escape the hero's gaze. The traitor, in a panic, tries to raise his useless thugs lying on the floor. The young man gives a new order, and the maddened punk is ready to devour his next victim. The scene erupts into cartoonish chaos as the thug charges at his boss with a feral roar. A maddened punk looms over the fallen boss, becoming the living embodiment of chaos and destruction. Feral, with a mocking smile, invites the humiliated traitor to continue this crazy show. Utterly broken, Mr. Lyle, in tears and snot, begs for mercy, ready to do anything to save himself. With icy calm, the young man takes Kirsten's hand, shifting all responsibility for her life onto the shoulders of the boss. Out of fear of the hero, the traitor accidentally knocks out his own thug. In utter despair, the once powerful boss falls on his knees, recognizing the boy as his older brother. The hero accepts his surrender with satisfaction, enjoying his complete and unconditional victory. He turns to the stunned girl with a gentle smile, reminding her that a good neighbor is better than any brother. The humiliated boss ingratiatingly offers his help, promising that from now on, no one will touch her. Confused but enchanted by his power, the heroine melts from his touch, realizing that she has fallen in love. Leaving the chaos behind, the hero confidently leads the girl he saved towards a new life. Zoe looms over her tormentor, her cold gaze filled with long-awaited justice. The spirit says goodbye to the past, where the demon took her life, and finds hope for a new beginning. She leaves forever, breaking the last connection with the world that brought her so much pain. Saying goodbye to her ghostly ally feels like a strange conversation with emptiness for the heroine. The powerful father of the murdered Brian is furious to learn that his son has fallen at the hands of a ghost. Blinded by his thirst for revenge, he vows to take revenge at any cost, ignoring any warnings. A mysterious elder in the shadows doubts his subordinate's readiness for the coming battle. The next morning, the girl's concern for the guy disturbs his peace after a hard night. Her feigned irritation conceals her budding feelings for her new, mysterious neighbor. The awkward morning begins with Kirsten finding a half-asleep feral completely naked. The girl blushes with embarrassment, while the guy looks in bewilderment at his changed body. The man's sudden reaction to her presence leads to a loud scandal and a slammed door. Left alone, the hero admits to himself with a grin that he is not yet accustomed to such a hectic life. On the way to the park, the young man teases his embarrassed neighbor, who leads him through strange nooks and crannies. Their walk is interrupted by a sudden encounter with two thugs, clearly sent for their souls. The boy is furious when he realizes that his warnings about the danger have been ignored. At the last moment, the young man shields the girl from a knife attack, ready to accept death. While Zoe explains the new rules to him, Kirsten listens to his conversation with emptiness, completely confused. The hero senses a new threat and activates his yin-yang eyes to see the true nature of his enemies. A terrifying picture opens before his eyes. The attackers turn out to be limp dolls in the hands of ghosts. This revelation makes the young man remember how he himself almost made the same puppet out of Zoya. Kirsten watches in complete bewilderment as she watches the strange behavior of her companion and invisible ally. The spirit explains that powerful sorcerers operate in the city, enslaving ghosts for their dark deeds. His faithful ghost assistant rushes into battle, turning into a giant skull and attacking enemies. In the mental world, the beaten boss tries to resist the will of the ghost that has once again taken over his body. The possessed traitor orders his men to attack, but there is an animalistic fear in his eyes. Feral easily dodges and knocks out one of the attackers with one powerful blow. The thug's body falls limply to the ground, and a strange black substance begins to drip from his head. From the horror she experienced and the sight of blood, Kirsten faints right into the arms of her protector. Vice Captain Neil arrives at the crime scene, ready to sort out the bloody chaos. The guy tries to give the girl CPR, not noticing the arrival of the police. Mistaking him for a serial killer, the police officer points a gun at him, demanding that he stop immediately. Suddenly, a needle appears out of nowhere and pierces the heroine, leaving her life hanging by a thread. Feral's heart breaks with horror and rage, and his cry of despair echoes throughout the park. He tries to save her while the policewoman still sees him as a crazed psychopath. Submitting to someone's will, she tries to stop him, but the young man easily intercepts her hand. The officer attacks him with a blast of energy, but the hero easily deflects the blow, surprising her with his strength. The true puppeteer, who has been watching the fight from afar, prepares for his next move with a devilish grin. At the police station, Feral plays the fool while a tired officer tries to get the truth out of him. Shannon, full of enthusiasm and suspicion, bursts into the interrogation room, confident that this guy is not so simple. The police chief is skeptical of her theory, believing the young man to be an ordinary idiot rather than a cold-blooded criminal. The officer, seeing a hidden threat in the hero, cannot believe that he can fool everyone so easily. The guy continues to put on a comedy act, feigning complete confusion and incomprehension of what is happening. Deep down, he realizes with horror that he has caused the death of a man, albeit a scoundrel. Xianan's suspicious gaze pierces him through, making him nervous beneath his simpleton's mask. The news of Zhang Bing's death from X Group becomes a real bombshell for the department. The policewoman is triumphant because her long investigation has finally borne fruit. She excitedly reports that before his death, the mafioso met with a mysterious young man. With a triumphant grin, Xianan declares that this psycho fits the description perfectly. The officer is confident that Zhang Bing's death is the key to uncovering an entire criminal network. In an attempt to extract a confession, she slams the table hard, but it shatters into pieces. Turning around, the police are shocked to discover that their prime suspect has disappeared without a trace. As she expected, the guy escaped, and now the chase becomes a matter of honor for her. With every step, her confidence grows. This guy is involved in the matter much deeper than it seems. Finding himself in Satan's palace, Farrell struggles to figure out how to save Christina without becoming a killer. Realizing that Christina is missing, the hero panics and loses control, and is pulled into a blinding portal. Trapped digitally, his only thought is to save the girl, and he desperately searches for a way out. The walls around him change, and an ominous symbol on the cracking surface foreshadows a new threat. Through the portal, Farrell sees a mysterious enemy about to take Christina's life. Despair and rage overwhelm the boy when he sees the stranger's hand on her defenseless neck. Like a cannonball, the hero bursts out of the digital world, tearing apart the very fabric of reality. He flies into the room through the window, and his powerful blow throws the attacker off the bed. Surrounded by shrapnel, the young man rushes to the girl, anxiously checking her pulse. Suddenly, Xianan bursts into the room, her determined gaze not auguring well. The policewoman grabs him, not noticing the dark entity that is already crawling across the floor. Possessed by another personality, the young man tries to warn her of the danger, but she only laughs in his face. A treacherous shadow grabs her by the leg, and the officer falls, confident that she has cornered the criminal. In his desperate attempt to explain himself, the invisible barrier between the worlds cracks and shatters into pieces. A whole squad of police surrounds the hospital, and the order to capture the fugitive echoes over the radio. Farrell realizes with horror that the more witnesses there are, the more difficult it will be to get out of this mess. The officer corners him, confident that her prey has finally fallen into a trap. In desperation, the young man calls upon his faithful ghost, ready to go to extreme measures to save himself. In the heat of the chase, the guy accidentally touches the girl, and this awkwardness costs him dearly. Enraged by his insolence, Xianan slaps him across the face with all her might, calling him a fucking psychopath. The hero blocks the blow and orders Zoe to protect Christina while he draws attention to himself. The appearance of the second ghost shocks the officer, but the proud entity is in no hurry to obey. Taking advantage of the moment of confusion, the young man takes off, and the chase intensifies with renewed vigor. Fueled by adrenaline, the boy and his faithful servant rush down the corridor, trying to escape their pursuit. Escaping pursuit, Farrell leads his faithful ghost to the roof, where he prepares to give battle. Zoe's sudden appearance enrages him until she reminds him of her magical binding. Fear for Christina's life forces the young man to cast aside his doubts and launch a frontal attack. On the rooftop, he finally confronts his true enemy, accusing him of turning him into a murderer. Boiling with rage, the hero prepares to unleash all his newfound power on the enemy. He throws his ghostly allies into battle, but the sorcerer only grins, sensing their strength. The Taoist priest easily repels their combined attack, demonstrating his superiority. A mysterious spell envelops his loyal servants, and their attack dissolves into a shroud of darkness. The sorcerer vanishes into thin air, and Zoe admits with hatred that it is the power of the Taoists that frightens her most. At the last moment, the guy pulls his allies back, sensing mortal danger in the air. Zoe reminds Farrell of his unique power, and he sheepishly admits that he had completely forgotten about it. With excitement in his eyes, the boy activates his search skill to find the invisible enemy's weak spot. A daring and completely crazy plan is born in his head, which he immediately voices. The ghostly ally is completely shocked by his obscene proposal, doubting its adequacy. Ignoring her doubts, the young man turns to his faithful servant as his main trump card. Having grabbed his little ghost, the hero prepares for the most risky throw of his life. He launches his assistant like a living projectile, and he blushes in embarrassment from such attention. Like a rocket, the ghost soars into the sky, creating a powerful energy impulse for the attack. The hero triumphantly confirms his guess, while his ally turns away in disgust. He suggests to Zoe that they attack the enemy from two sides, and this crazy plan becomes their last hope. The sorcerer prepares a powerful spell, concentrating the destructive energy of the Taoists in his hands. Suddenly appearing behind Zoe, he deals her a crushing blow, taking everyone by surprise. The attack proves too powerful, and the ghostly ally's body begins to disintegrate into particles. Because of their magical connection, the hero feels her pain as his own, and is pierced by agony. Having picked up the wounded girl, the young man himself is hit and ends up pierced by 2 needles. He furiously orders his faithful servant to attack, but he freezes in place in horror. Holding a weakened Zoe in his arms, the boy screams in despair at his useless ghost. Suddenly, a strange pink energy bursts out of the little helper, blocking the new attack. The sorcerer is surprised to realize that this power is unfamiliar to him and does not belong to the world of Taoists. The loyal ghost servant unleashes a powerful blast, but the overconfident enemy only smirks at his pitiful skills. The overconfident sorcerer repels the attack with contempt, and the little ghost burns in agony from its power. Spinning in a vortex of dark energy, the Taoist priest prepares to deliver the decisive blow. The sudden appearance of the police on the roof ruins all plans, but Xianan surprises everyone with his split personality. The policewoman reads the charges to the hero and triumphantly places the magic handcuffs on him. The second officer's intervention only amuses the sorcerer, whose insidious plan exceeds all expectations. Seizing the moment, the villain activates his shadow theater, unleashing dark, binding magic. The police officers are instantly engulfed by sinister tentacles, their screams of terror echoing across the rooftop. Completely immobilized, the officer panics and realizes that her body is no longer under her control. A bloody silhouette against the darkness foreshadows a brutal reprisal, and reality itself cracks with horror. Waking up again in Satan's palace, Farrell desperately tries to understand who he is and what happened to him. In the digital world, Farrell is horrified to discover that his yin-yang eyes are useless against the powerful Taoist. The system freezes, and the guy panics and realizes that if he dies here, he will die in reality too. A sudden revelation strikes him. He has completely forgotten about his main trump card, the Book of Life and Death. Having gained access to the artifact, the hero falls into childish delight, amazed by its incredible power. He quickly pulls himself together, remembering that the system never offers useless things. With a devilish grin, the young man realizes that with the help of this book, he can condemn anyone to death. In a desperate attempt, he enters the name of the ancient philosopher Mo Tzu into the system, choosing the revive option. A powerful vortex of energy erupts from the portal, and a mysterious figure appears before him. The resurrected sage asks in bewilderment why he was summoned, plunging the hero into complete shock. The great Mo Tzu appears before them completely naked, and this absurd scene baffles everyone. Farrell is in complete shock, unable to believe that the great philosopher turned out to be an exhibitionist. Understanding the rules of the new world, Mo Tzu disappears in a cloud of smoke to fit in with the times. The ancient sage returns in the guise of a cool mafioso, with a cigar and stylish glasses. The hero falls into hysterics from such a drastic change of image, not recognizing the great philosopher in him. The new ally confidently declares that his skills are no less powerful than their common enemy. He expresses his respect to the guy who is willing to become Satan to save the world. The sage grabs the young man by the scruff of the neck, offering his help in this unequal battle. Like a whirlwind, it carries the stunned hero into a dark dimension teeming with monsters. In the icy darkness, a boy comes face to face with a terrifying monster from his nightmares. His scream of horror is drowned out by the ominous silence as dozens of creatures pounce on him from the darkness. Trapped, Farrell finds himself in a sea of ghosts, his screams of terror drowned out by the darkness. Like a savior, Mo Tzu rushes into this underworld to rescue him from the clutches of the monsters. He tears the very essence of the dark mass from its core, declaring that he has found the material for the armor. But instead of being saved, the young man himself is attacked by ghosts, biting into his flesh and tearing him to pieces. The hero's body explodes from the inside, and his life force becomes food for hundreds of hungry creatures. With horror, the boy realizes that instead of helping, the sage is trying to kill him, using him as bait. A sudden revelation pierces him, he himself, his soul and body. And this is the key to the legendary armor. The great philosopher reminds him that only a mighty heart, full of virtue, is capable of controlling force. He poses the main question to the hero: is he ready to accept this power, and all the responsibility that it brings? Comparing him to an archer, the sage hands him a bow and a horse, asking if he can control them. In agony, Farrell screams at the sage, questioning his role as Satan in this insane plan. With icy calm, he accepts his fate, realizing that he has become the most insignificant Satan in the world. The system declares the mission a failure, and the police ghost attacks the damn psycho with fury. Suddenly, a bloody beam pierces Mo Tzu's body, and his stone heart cracks from the impact. From the wound emerges his true essence, an abandoned and betrayed spirit thirsting for revenge. Hundreds of ghostly copies of the sage merge together, revealing the true source of his incredible power. From this chaos, the legendary Asura armor is born, and the hero is reborn in a new, powerful form. The philosopher notes with satisfaction that everything happened almost as described in the ancient texts. In his new guise, The young man feels a surge of strength and confidence that he is no longer afraid of the battle with the Taoist. He tries to stop the disappearing sage, but he leaves, leaving him with a bunch of questions. The sage hints with a grin that hell still hides many useful artifacts for the hero. In his new demonic form, Farrell furiously demands to be returned immediately. Weakened after the transformation, he returns to the real world. Xianan, without a second thought, shoots at him, confident that she is looking at a maddened monster. With incredible ease, the young man catches the bullet, demonstrating his new, inhuman speed. The projectile turns into a necklace, and this magic shocks even a powerful Taoist. Grabbing the female police officer, he saves her from falling, moving faster than the eye can follow. He holds her tenderly in his arms, trying to reach her unconscious mind. Having carefully leaned the officer against the wall, the hero once again tries to prove that he is not crazy. The sorcerer was completely stunned, unable to understand how this boy could have become so strong so suddenly. Even in her unconscious state, Zoe feels the touch of her master, whom she has come to rely on. The little ghost demands his share of attention as the enraged sorcerer prepares for the final attack. The Taoist priest unleashes all his power on them, releasing a stream of destructive energy from under his feet. With icy contempt, the hero easily repels his pitiful attacks, tired of this monotony. He clutches a clot of dark energy in his hand, releasing hundreds of hungry souls trapped within his body. The young man accuses his enemy of the most terrible sin, manipulating souls to create evil. Suddenly appearing behind the sorcerer, he promises him punishment on behalf of all the ghosts he has tortured. Having found himself captured by a demon, the once powerful Taoist is horrified and does not understand what is happening. With one movement, the boy throws it aside, and his necklace flashes with an ominous light. But even defeated, the old man does not give up, because he still has one last darkest trump card hidden up his sleeve. The sorcerer uses his last trump card, capturing Christina right before the hero's eyes. He declares with a devilish grin that he always has a backup plan and an even stronger hand. While he was assessing the guy's new strength, his dark magic had already managed to enslave the defenseless girl. With sadistic pleasure, he offers the young man to surrender. Otherwise, his beloved will experience the full force of his wrath. The Taoist priest puts all his hatred into the combined spell, strengthening his grip. He passes the wrath of hundreds of souls through the girl's body, causing her to suffer unbearable pain. A cocky villain challenges the hero to come and defeat him in a fair fight. The boy looks at this childishness with disdain, realizing that his enemy is simply trying to provoke him. The sorcerer mocks him, calling him an upstart who has learned a few new tricks. He continues his cheap performance, but the young man only coldly asks if he is an idiot. The sorcerer mockingly asks if the hero will really remain inactive even when this little one's life hangs by a thread. The girl loses consciousness from the unbearable pain, and this picture finally breaks all the brakes on the young man. Blinded by rage, he rushes at the bastard with a roar, ready to tear him to pieces with his bare hands. But his blow is easily intercepted, and the hero understands with horror where the enemy gets such self-confidence. The Taoist priest enthusiastically explains that this little girl's soul is a perfect match for his ghost. Deciding to end the game, he unleashes his darkest magic, the essence of the snow tomb. The spell drains the heroine's life force, and the air fills with particles of black sorrow. But a sudden blow from behind interrupts the ritual, and the guy proudly praises his magnificent ghost. Freed from the dark spell, the girl falls limply from the sky, her body covered in ominous writing. Taking her in his arms, the hero returns to his human form and tenderly promises to go home. Carrying the unconscious Christina in his arms, Farrell leaves behind the battlefield and his fallen enemies. He gently puts the girl to bed, promising that everything will soon get better, but her condition worsens. When Shannon wakes up, she is furious to discover that her prime suspect has managed to escape again. Burning with hatred for the damn psycho, she vows to find him and make him pay for everything. Sitting by the bed, the sick hero feels the effect of a dark curse left by the sorcerer. Thoughts gently stroking her head, the young man begs her to get well as soon as possible. Torn by guilt, he hits himself on the head in despair, blaming only himself for what happened. In tears, he asks his ghostly allies for advice, but they only silently sympathize with him. Ready to do anything to save her, the boy decides to cook her food while his loyal servants whisper their ideas in his ear. Farrell falls into despair at the sight of his poisonous cooking, because he doesn't even have money for the hospital. A sudden revelation pierces his mind, and a spark of crazy hope lights up in his eyes. With a devilish grin, he realizes that his satanic power can not only feed Chris, but also bring him wealth. In a fit of excitement, the young man summons his main artifact, the all-powerful Book of Life and Death. With the help of the system, he decides to resurrect the greatest chef in history, the god of cooking Yu Yuin. In the digital space, a legendary chef appears before him, whose art of governing the country was like cooking. The hero is stunned by his ridiculous appearance, unable to understand what is on this weirdo's head. Mo-tsu suddenly appeared and approved of the chef's modern style, considering it quite good. Two great masters from the past shake hands, forming an unexpected alliance. Enraged by their posturing, the guy hits the cook with all his might, reminding him that he was not called in for a photo shoot. The stunned chef was completely at a loss, not understanding why he had been hit again. An enraged pharaoh points at his ridiculous apron that says, "Top Chef." After 3,000 years of oblivion, the god of cooking sheepishly admits that he hasn't practiced for a long time. Modern cuisine amazes his imagination, and he explores new dishes with childish delight. The wise Mo-tsu encourages him, confident that true talent has no expiration date. The philosopher is convinced that the genius chef has already absorbed all the culinary techniques of the new world. The guy's patience snaps, and he hits the poor guy again, demanding that he immediately prepare something for Christina. The outraged cook demands that the beatings stop, and that they explain who this mysterious Christina is. Irritated by the endless questions, the young man becomes furious at this empty chatter. Without wasting another second, the hero forcibly pulls the legendary chef into the real world so that he can finally start cooking. Shoving the legendary chef into the kitchen, Farrell impatiently demands that he cook something immediately. As if reborn, the god of cooking throws off the shackles of 1,000 years of oblivion. With a proud smile, he presents his first masterpiece in 3,000 years, the rice of love. The guy's patience snaps, and he hits the poor guy again, shouting that a girl in a coma can't eat solid food. Embarrassed by his mistake, the cook admits that he got too carried away, forgetting about the patient's condition. Despite all the difficulties, they manage to feed Christina, and hope lights up in the hero's heart. The legendary chef understands that ordinary food will not help, because the girl has lost too much yang energy. He has a brilliant idea. Find a place where he can cook a chicken over a fire to replenish its strength. He explains that with the help of the yin spirit, the yang spirit can be restored, and then the girl will be able to be healed. Without wasting a second, the young man grabs the cook by the hand, ready to follow him anywhere to save Chris. The legendary chef enthusiastically declares that he is ready to make an antidote for his girlfriend. Floating in the night sky, he curiously asks why his beloved was hurt so badly. The guy blushes with embarrassment, admitting that she is not his girlfriend yet. The god of cooking, with a sly grin, advises him to hurry, hinting at the transience of life. Irritated by his teasing, the young man once again reminds him that he called him for salvation, and not for chatter. The cook continues his moralizing, discussing modern mores and free relationships. The hero's patience snaps, and he hits the poor guy on the head with all his might, demanding that he stop this farce. The impact causes them both to fall out of the sky, and the guy lands painfully right in front of a barbecue restaurant. The legendary chef declares this place to be their destination, the intersection of yin and yang. The stunned hero is completely perplexed, unable to believe that an ordinary restaurant could be the key to salvation. As if by inspiration, a smile flashes across the face of the god of cooking, because he has found the key to her salvation: fire. Farrell is puzzled by his sudden seriousness, not understanding what this eccentric chef is up to. Once in the kitchen, the legendary chef's body is ablaze with culinary passion, ready to create magic. Tempered by the fire of thousands of battles at the stove, it becomes one with the flame, turning cooking into a real show. Having lost control of his power, he creates a culinary masterpiece that shocks all onlookers. The divine aroma of his dish draws a crowd, leaving the young man and his friends petrified with amazement. Having completed his mission, the chef looks out of the skyscraper window at the night sky with a sense of accomplishment. But his appearance does not go unnoticed. A mysterious stranger watches him with interest from afar. The sinister grin on his face betrays his cunning plan, as the hero has invaded his yin-yang exchange territory. Meanwhile, the magic of cooking works its magic, and Christina pounces on the food with wolfish appetite. Looking at the healed Christina, Farrell and his ghostly friends realize that miracles taste like chicken. Taking a break from eating, the hero asks in surprise what his faithful servants are doing here. The legendary chef proudly declares that his cooking can even conquer ghosts. He boasts with undisguised smugness that his ideal food can even revive the dead. Enraged by his chatter, the young man sends the cook back to the digital world with one kick. Waking up, the girl tearfully begs him to help her see her parents, whom she lost long ago. Stunned through tears, she remembers that terrible day and how he changed after the battle with the Taoist. Her memories are hazy, but she clearly remembers how he protected her in his new guise. The girl, with tears in her eyes, admits that he has become different since they met the dragon's brother. Clinging to him, Christina desperately asks where he got this power from and why she doesn't have it. Farrell tries to calm her down, assuring her that it is not a power, but simply the ability to see spirits. Torn apart by grief, the girl screams that she wants to see her parents at least as ghosts. He listens to her with sympathy, learning for the first time about the tragedy that broke her life. Through tears, she begins her story about the day her parents left and never returned. The father excitedly told them that their team had found the legendary dragon's tooth and their dream would come true. They left for a few days, promising to return soon, but this was their last farewell. From that day on, she never saw them again, and the emptiness in her heart never healed. A kind woman took her in, but nothing could replace the warmth of her parents' home. With a last ounce of hope in her voice, she begs him to help her, believing that his gift is her only chance. Clinging to her last hope, the girl asks with tears in her eyes if her parents will return. She vaguely remembers feeling the presence of something inexplicable and frightening in her unconscious state. The young man tries to write it all off as a dream, but a sudden burst of energy proves that it was something more. Her condition rapidly worsens, and the guy is perplexed and tries to understand the reason for this strange attack. Taking care of her, the hero realizes that there is a secret hidden in her past that he vitally needs to unravel. Deciding to take action, the young man logs into the system to find answers using the Book of Life and Death. The search yields no results, and Farrell is at a loss to understand why there are no entries in the book. The wise Motsu smirks and points out his stupid mistake. He didn't even enter a name for the search. Even the sage's attempt is unsuccessful, but an unexpected ally comes to the rescue. The god of cooking. Enraged by his appearance, the boy snaps at the cook, demanding that he return to cooking the life-saving chicken. The culinary god comes up with a brilliant idea. Use Christina's saliva to test her parents' DNA. With the help of a duplicate system, the wise Motsu hacks into the Book of Life and Death, astonishing the hero with his ingenuity. The search finally yields results, and information about the missing parents appears on the screen. The legendary chef proudly recalls that the key to the mystery lay in that very barbecue restaurant. Farrell is baffled as to why this particular place has become the intersection of yin and yang and the center of all events. The philosopher explains that the yin-yang transformation was forbidden even during his lifetime because of its enormous power. The hero is shocked, because he thought it was just a fusion of the 5 elements, and not forbidden magic. This ancient technique connects all points of the human body, making the sick healthy and granting incredible power. With the help of transformation, it is even possible to bring the dead back to life, and this thought dawns on the young man. He understands that with the help of the Book of Life and Death, he can forge their DNA and cheat fate itself. The wise Motsu confidently reaches for the keyboard, ready to hack fate itself. At his touch, the system cracks and shatters into pieces, leaving everyone in shock. A dire warning appears on the red screen, and digital reality plunges into darkness. But Farrell just grins, because he is the only one who has full access to the Book of Life and Death. With excitement in his eyes, he suggests that his allies go to the intersection of yin and yang and sort everything out. The legendary chef panics and tries to refuse, because his specialty is cooking, not dangerous adventures. He begs the sage to put in a good word for him, but he only encourages him with a laugh. The philosopher is delighted with the upcoming adventure, and his excitement is transmitted even to the cowardly cook. Tired of their chatter, the young man reminds them that the most important thing now is to save Chris's parents, not to have fun. Accompanied by his faithful Zoe, he sets out on a journey, ready to challenge fate itself in this mysterious place. Doubts gnaw at Farrell, because he doesn't believe that Chris's parents could be in this abandoned place. Behind the creaky door, he finds only an old warehouse, and his hope begins to fade. His faithful ghost assistant finds something in the dusty boxes, pointing to a hidden secret. Zoe translates his incoherent muttering, confirming that they are on the right track and the solution is close. In an attempt to open the find, his new power goes out of control, distorting his face into a painful grimace. He sheepishly admits that he still can't handle Asura's armor, and this weakness angers him. Suddenly, his little servant falls into the rift, and Zoe warns him in horror of the danger. The spirit pushes its master away, taking the full brunt of the blow and burning in a stream of destructive energy. Emerging from the flames in his demonic form, the hero is relieved to save his faithful ghost. The armor's incredible power heals his servant's wounds, and the young man is surprised to discover new possibilities. Zoe realizes with horror that Asura's armor is absorbing the life force of her faithful servant. She panics and realizes that if he is not stopped, the hungry ghost will simply disappear forever. But the hero only grins, because his armor grants immortality to those who become part of it. With wild laughter, he celebrates his small victory, proud of his faithful and now immortal servant. The enemy suddenly appeared and looked at him with contempt, calling him a pathetic creature. In his hands, the hero recognizes the very spear he saw in his nightmares, and the puzzle begins to come together. The ghostly ally confirms his guess in horror. It is he, the very same spirit hunter. The enemy's lightning-fast attack forces the young man to dodge, and the wall behind him shatters into pieces. Zoe realizes with horror that in front of them is the very man who collects ghosts of all levels in the city. She warns her master that his power is much darker and purer than that of the ghostly puppets. Zoe is horrified to recognize in the enemy's power the same ghostly control that once enslaved her. Amidst the peals of thunder, she cries out in despair to her master, warning him of the enemy's unforgivable power. Suddenly, two identical opponents appear in front of the hero, and this illusion shocks him. In the darkness, one of the doubles deals the guy a crushing blow, piercing his body through and through. The ghostly ally takes the second blow, her cry of pain echoing through the night. The young man's heart is broken with grief, because he did not want this battle, but only dreamed of finding Chris's parents. Blinded by rage, he awakens his true power, and his body becomes half covered in Asura armor. Like a hurricane, the young man descends upon his enemies, striking with inhuman speed. He hits both of them, but only one is wounded, and this oddity makes him think. Defeated, he realizes that one of his opponents was just an illusion, a cunning dummy designed to distract him. The defeated enemy admits his defeat with a grin, but the flame of new intrigue burns in his eyes. Suddenly, a whole army of doubles appears in front of the hero, and this illusion shocks him. He understands that only one of them is real, but he no longer has time to think. His Asura armor begins to disappear, and the boy is confused, trying to understand what is happening. The cause of everything turns out to be his faithful ghost assistant, who absorbed too much power. As if breaking out of a cocoon, his little servant begins to grow and change rapidly. What appears before him is not a pitiful ghost, but a charming boy with shining eyes, full of adoration. With a joyful cry, he rushes towards his master, knocking him off his feet with his irrepressible energy. But his childish delight turns to icy rage when he sees his enemy defeated. Like a warlord, he summons his army of chained ghosts, ready to wipe from the face of the earth anyone who offends his master. The reborn ghost still seethes with rage, ready to tear the enemy to pieces with its chains. Suddenly, his anger turns to childish delight when he notices that his enemies have disappeared without a trace. But his joy is cut short by a cry of horror as his master's armor crumbles to dust. Realizing his guilt, the little servant falls to his knees in tears, begging Master Satan for forgiveness. He admits that he absorbed too much energy out of fear, depriving his master of protection. A stunned feral tries to come to his senses, unable to get used to the new, charming form of his servant. His attention shifts to Zoe, and he turns away in embarrassment from her revealing torn outfit. The ghostly ally's scream of horror echoes throughout the area as her clothes begin to disintegrate around her. A sudden revelation strikes the young man. The power that changed one ghost can work on another. The loyal servant, with an unperturbed look, volunteers to check the dark corridor, prepared for any danger. Zoe warns her master that this shaking could be connected to that guy, and they need to be on guard. The hero agrees with her, realizing that his reincarnated ghost still does not fully control its power. He remembers with a grin how his little servant ate almost all of Asura's armor, causing all the problems. Suddenly, an excited voice calls them, and they discover what they have been looking for so long. Two ghosts appear before them, longingly repeating the name of their beloved daughter, Christina. Farrell is shocked, unable to believe that these are actually the spirits of her missing parents. The father aggressively attacks him, demanding that he give them to the girl so that she will no longer wait for them. The mother calms her husband, reminding him that they are already in different worlds and cannot return. With tears in her eyes, she hopefully asks if their smart girl is living a happy life. In a fit of despair, the father screams that their daughter cannot be happy without her mother by her side. The parents' argument is interrupted by the awkward intervention of a boy trying to calm them down. The enraged spirits lash out at him, demanding that he not interfere in their family affairs. The hero whispers to his allies not to tell them what happened to Chris, but his careless words reach his father's ears, and he freezes in horror. The mother points to a living person with delight, while her husband panics and searches for the source of the bad news. The spirit of the father looks at the young man with reproach, realizing that he is also to blame for his daughter's problems. The reincarnated ghost is surprised to find a strange chain around the spirit's neck that gives off an evil vibe. Suddenly, thorns grow out of the walls, pinning the spirits of the parents to the wall. While the hero tries to help them, a giant flower appears from underground, ready to swallow them all. The father's spirit cries out in despair that no one can escape the curse of the true dragon's tooth. Words about the dream of a lifetime come to the hero's mind, and he again hears the ominous name of the artifact. Trapped, the father tearfully begs him to take care of his daughter. Faithful allies scream in horror to their master, warning of mortal danger. The last thing he sees is his mother's hand reaching out to him, begging for salvation. Despite the thorns digging into his flesh, the young man desperately tries to save her parents. Zoe stops him, insisting that they first need to find out what this dragon tooth is. Blinded by anger, he shouts that he is Satan, and it is up to him to decide who lives and who dies. In the digital world, A guy tries to revive Chris's parents and find information about a cursed artifact. But the system rejects his request, and in a rage the hero smashes the screen, unable to accept defeat. Ominous figures emerge from the shadows, accusing him of breaking the ancient seal and causing a pogrom. The discovered enemies are not going to retreat, and their leader, with a grin, announces the beginning of a bloody battle. The old man unleashes a stream of lightning on them, and its speed catches the hero off guard, ruining all his plans. An inexplicable light attracts everyone to itself, and they fly helplessly towards the unknown. Waking up in a strange place, the hero and his allies examine the ancient structure with bewilderment. He stumbles upon mysterious strangers, not understanding who they are or why they ended up in this underground city. An enemy suddenly appears and reveals that they were summoned to eliminate a powerful enemy, hinting at the hero. The news of the broken seal of the dungeon shocks one of them, as it threatens a catastrophe. In a panic, he orders that information about the underground city and the dragon's tooth be hidden at any cost. The mysterious leader reminds that this place is sacred not only for the old bastards, but for all the inhabitants of the city. With fanatical devotion, he vows to defend the city to the last drop of blood, along with his people. The enraged enemy demands that the hero show his true strength, but he only laughs mockingly. With the help of his people, he creates a human shield, ready to take any blow. The attack throws the guy aside and he falls, bleeding, unable to resist. The faithful servant rushes in horror to his wounded master, not understanding how this could have happened. Zoe screams in despair that it was just a mirage, and the real enemy is still lurking in the darkness. The true enemy emerges from the shadows, his sinister gaze paralyzing the little ghost with terror. With one blow, he knocks him aside, demonstrating his incredible inhuman strength. Even in his new powerful form, the loyal servant is no match for this monster. The group's leader realizes with horror that the enemy's power is capable of destroying even Sun Hao's protective seal. In desperation, he rushes forward to stop the accumulation of this destructive energy. The reincarnated ghost stands in his way with icy calm, ready to defend his master to the end. He blocks the attack by plunging his sword into the ground, and this audacity makes the hero's blood boil with excitement. With a wild grin, Farrell awakens his dark side, ready for the real fight. The little servant, with fury in his eyes, swears that from now on no one will come near his master. The enemy accepts his challenge with a sneer, confident that this boy will not be able to stop him. Hundreds of his clones create an indestructible, spiky shield, ready to repel any attack. Enraged by this posturing, the faithful servant unleashes his true chained form. With a scream, he unleashes all his power on the enemy, tearing space apart. The chain attack easily pierces the living shield, but the sword bounces powerlessly off the invisible armor. Zoe realizes with horror that his skill is unlike anything she's seen before. It doesn't use light beams. Suddenly, the hero feels his strength begin to fade and his recovery slows down. The ghostly ally, in a panic, advises him to test his armor with the eyes of yin-yang. After activating his gift, the young man watches in horror as an invisible entity drains his power. He has difficulty realizing that this time it is not his faithful servant who is to blame, but something else. The enemy's strange light power and the loss of his own power leave him with an insoluble riddle. Everything falls into place. This mysterious place of yin-yang exchange is sucking the energy out of him. The master's strength depends on yin energy, but this place, on the contrary, absorbs it, making him vulnerable. Zoe panics and screams at her master not to use his power here, as it's a trap. She explains that there is something behind the mysterious door that is sucking out his yin energy. The ghostly ally realizes with horror that their enemy is not alone and is acting according to a cunning plan. They were deliberately provoked into a fight in order to lure them to this place and absorb its power. But the enemies did not take one thing into account. Loyal servants are ready to protect their master at any cost. The reborn ghost creates a chain barrier to buy time and prevent enemies from breaking through. He excitedly suggests that Zoe deal with the enemies outside the door while he holds the line here. The group's leader easily breaks his chains, promising to kill him after he deals with the master. The words baby and dead man make him lose his temper, and his face contorts into a grimace of pure rage. He charges forward, ready to prove that he is more than just a little ghost. The group's leader, with a devilish grin, orders his men to die, and their bodies explode. The double wall he created blocks the exit, cutting off all escape routes for the heroes. He hopes that this trap will delay them, because something much more terrible than himself awaits them ahead. Wandering through the dark corridors, Farrell and Zoe realize that they are lost in this ominous labyrinth. With each passing minute, the master's strength dwindles, and the ghostly ally panics and searches for a way to help him. All doors lead to a dead end, and only one, the last one, remains their only hope for salvation. This door is different from the others, and in its strange convex shape, the hero senses a hidden threat. At his touch, the stone cracks, and Zoe, terrified, pulls her master away from danger. An exit opens before them, but its ominous light only intensifies the premonition of disaster. Despite all their suspicions, they have no choice but to step into the unknown. Exhausted from the loss of energy, Farrell struggles to breathe while Zoe remains by his side, ready to protect him. She senses that her master is in danger, and her loyalty does not allow her to take a single step away. The enemy is perplexed as to how this boy was able to evade his deadly blow. As if removing a mask, he draws his sword across his face, revealing his true, terrifying self. He mockingly asks why the enemy did not weaken his defenses if he was so confident of his victory. The instinct for self-preservation screams about danger, and even a self-confident opponent feels animal fear. With a devilish laugh, the little servant declares that now he doesn't have to worry about anything. His sword transforms into a massive scythe, and he eagerly anticipates the taste of his enemy's soul. With icy calm, he asks his last question, and the flame of insatiable hunger burns in his eyes. The leader of the group accepts the challenge, his body swelling to incredible proportions from the power that overwhelms him. With a wild laugh, the reincarnated ghost asks if he is ready to continue this deadly game. With a reaper's smile, he promises his enemy a quick and painful death from his bloody scythe. Two titans clash in a decisive battle, and reality itself is torn apart by their power. At this time, Zoe looks at her weakened master with concern, worrying about his fate, but he only smirks, advising her to take care of herself, because a new threat awaits them ahead. Suddenly, a mysterious figure appears before them, and his appearance does not bode well. With icy calm, the boy challenges the new enemy, ready to fight to the last. The stranger admits with disdain that this piece of shit has caused him a lot of problems. In his face, the hero recognizes with horror the same bastard who once stole his girl. With a devilish grin, Farrell decides to put an end to this story once and for all. But his enemy only cowardly denies it, declaring that he is against any violence. With icy calm, the hero realizes that his real opponent was there all along. His ex-girlfriend, possessed by an evil spirit, falls from a height, ready for the final battle. The villain grinningly wishes her to enjoy the time spent with the Gandharvas. In a fit of rage, the guy rushes at her, but the girl easily dodges his attack. With one powerful blow, she throws him aside, demonstrating her inhuman strength. With pain in his eyes, the young man understands that he will have to fight with the one he once loved. Blinded by anger, he awakens his dark essence, because it leaves him no choice. Two silhouettes collide in a furious battle, and reality itself cracks at the seams from their power. In the midst of the battle, Zoe appears, and her presence baffles the hero, because he thought she had left. He bitterly recognizes her as his ex, unable to believe that fate has brought them together again. The ghostly ally is eager to fight, ready to defend her master from any threat. Without a second thought, Zoe pounces on the possessed woman, not allowing her to bother her master. Meanwhile, the reincarnated ghost easily defeats his enemy, mocking his weakness. He reminds the defeated enemy that past merits do not make him stronger in this world. With a devilish grin, the little servant grabs his enemy by the throat, anticipating the taste of his soul. A scream of horror echoes throughout the area as it begins to drain the life force from him. With its last breath, the defeated enemy turns to smoke, and its soul becomes food for the hungry ghost. Leaving behind the defeated enemy, the faithful servant hurries to catch up with his master to be close. Driven by loyalty, Zoe lashes out at her ex-girlfriend, considering her betrayal unforgivable. In the midst of the fight, they both feel a strange, inexplicable connection from the past that confuses them. Rage boils inside her at the mere thought of how this woman dared to treat her master. Suddenly, their fight is interrupted by a vision from the past, and the little sister's scream echoes in the fire. A young girl emerges from the flames, her cry for help piercing the very heart. With horror and pain in her eyes, she recognizes her sister Zixi in the burning figure. Torn apart by grief, she hugs her sister, unable to believe the cruelty of this fate. Zoe's ex's words shock her, hinting at a shared, terrible secret. But sympathy turns to betrayal, and an icy hand pierces her back, dealing a fatal blow. Pierced through, Zoe looks at her opponent in horror, unable to understand who she is. With a devilish grin, the ex-girlfriend hints that she could be anyone, even his ex, or her sister. By calling herself Gandharvas, she reveals her true, demonic nature. Burning with rage and pain, Zoe vows that she will not let her die without knowing all her torment. Two sisters face off in a decisive battle, and from the ashes of their past, hope for salvation rises. Meanwhile, in a secret laboratory, a mysterious scientist observes his terrifying experiments. He admits with a grin that he didn't expect such a turn of events, because the hero himself walked into his trap. The ancient magic circle beneath him proves that searching for his parents was only part of his evil plan. But instead of regret, the flame of excitement burns in the guy's eyes, because he is glad to find himself in the very heart of hell. He feels the suffering of thousands of souls trapped in this place, and his thirst for revenge becomes insatiable. The cries of hundreds of tortured souls echo in the darkness, begging for salvation from eternal captivity. With fury in his eyes, the hero challenges his enemy, not understanding what human life means to him. But his righteous anger only amuses the sorcerer, whose laughter is imbued with coldness and contempt. Irritated by his insolence, the Taoist priest activates the blood seal, preparing to absorb his power. At this point of intersection of yin and yang, any action he takes is useless, and resistance only accelerates his death. The villain grins and suggests that he resign himself to it, because soon everything will be over, and his soul will become part of his collection. But a sudden cry of pain interrupts his triumph, and his own magic turns against him. Having escaped from captivity, the young man looks at the bastards with fury, promising that their retribution will not take long. Meanwhile, the sisters' battle reaches its peak, and the possessed Gandharvas easily repels Zoya's weak attack. Gandharvas asks with a grin if it is because of her face that Zoe is so weak in this battle. Tears stream down the ghostly ally's cheeks as she sees her dead sister in her. Torn between pain and anger, she demands that he stop using that face and speaking with her voice. With a cry of rage, Zoe rushes into the attack, unable to bear this cruel mockery any longer. But her opponent only mocks her anger, easily parrying all the blows. With one movement she disarms her, asking what she is even capable of in such a state. Gathering all her anger into a fist, the demoness releases dark energy, preparing to deliver the decisive blow. She summons the blades of hellish swords, claiming that her pathetic rage will do her no good. With a scream, she unleashes all her power on her sister, and her silhouette dissolves into the darkness. But even defeated, Zoe is not as weak as she seemed, and her story is not over yet. With fury in her eyes, Zoe rushes into the attack, not allowing her sister to underestimate her devotion to the master. She proudly declares that she is a servant of Satan himself, and her power is capable of crushing anyone. A stream of pure energy erupts from her hands, and Gandharvas easily dodges the blow. Meanwhile, Feral screams in pain as his body continues to transform under the influence of the dark force. An invisible enemy taunts him, offering his help in exchange for his complete submission. But the guy just grins, confident that the pathetic seal won't be able to contain his true power. He continues to fight while his opponent watches his futile attempts with indifference. The sister's spirit calls out to her humanity, but in response hears only cries of pain and pleas for mercy. In a fit of despair, Zoe pierces her through, freeing her from the demon's power, but condemning her to eternal torment. With the last word of forgiveness, she looks at the fallen body of her sister, and her own soul crumbles to dust. The faithful servant tries to help his new ally, but she only pushes him away, plunging into darkness. Grabbing her with a chain, he drags her along with childish delight in search of his beloved master. Meanwhile, the sorcerer is furious to realize that Gandharvas has disappeared, and his evil plan has failed. His mysterious boss orders him to stabilize the connection without being distracted by minor setbacks. In a secret laboratory, he assures him that she is just a defective product created to gain trust. But Feral proudly declares that she is his servant, and her loyalty to him is most important. The Taoist priest contemptuously calls him a non-entity, unworthy of such devotion. Trapped in a mental trap, the hero challenges his enemy to battle, but the latter only laughs at his impotence. With icy calm, the mysterious scientist promises him a quick meeting, and an ominous symbol lights up on his forehead. He appears in the digital world, and his question sounds like a death sentence. Faced with a new enemy, the old acquaintance cowardly raises his hands, assuring that he does not intend to fight. In the pouring rain, he proposes a deal, but in his eyes there is only cold calculation. Instead of negotiating, the scientist draws his bowstring, ready to kill him on the spot so as not to leave any witnesses. But his arrow hits not the enemy, but a mysterious talisman, and this changes the rules of the game. Two people watch this scene from afar, waiting for their new ally to come to them with a report. A mysterious boss is already waiting for him in the dark room, and the tension in the air could be cut with a knife. He finds his enemy at the most unexpected moment, and his appearance does not bode well. With a wild laugh, he admits that he is delighted with his love for this woman, and the flame of madness burns in his eyes. A demon suddenly appears and burns him alive, and his scream of horror is drowned out by the roar of flames. Honorary Apothecary Azure Stone emerges from the shadows, his icy gaze leaving no doubt that the jokes are over. Face to face, the old enemies realize there will be no winner in this battle. With despair in his voice, the scientist begs to tell him how to save the one who is dearest to him in the world. An ancient prophecy says that only a person who has gone through all 6 paths of reincarnation can decide the question of life and death. But the honorary apothecary with icy calm declares that she is already dead, and there is no way back. So their only goal is to revive her, no matter the cost, and he is ready to do anything. He orders his subordinate to follow Carol, who will reveal to him all the details of their plan. With a devilish grin, the enemy asks if he likes the name Divine Bow, which he earned after her death. With pain in his eyes, the scientist admits that he never regretted not saving her on that fateful day. After all, at the cost of her life, he saved 17 children and killed the ghost woman who tormented the city. But even if he had had even one chance, he would not have saved her, because that was his duty. With a wild laugh, the old enemy admits that his opponent turned out to be surprisingly entertaining. The body of his ex-girlfriend lies before them, and he bitterly recalls their last meeting. He says she died in an accident, but his words sound too false. With the help of the spirit absorbed after Zhang Bing's torture, he decides to give him a real show. A scream of horror echoes through the room as the dead body begins to convulse. She comes to life, and her empty, lifeless gaze plunges the scientist into real shock. With a devilish grin, the old acquaintance offers to talk to him about a deal, because now he has all the trump cards. He mockingly asks what it's like to taste murder, but he just walks away silently. He deserved it, and now he will have to live with this burden for the rest of his days. With icy calm, the enemy asks his last, most brutal question. What does it feel like to be ordered to kill? Memories of his beloved's death pierce his heart, and he relives that fateful night. He watches with a grin as his old enemy accuses the scientist of killing him. Behind the shadow of each of them lurks a dark essence, and this is only the beginning of their long and bloody game. The boss's new order sends him into a rage, to kill the man and bring the woman to him. With icy calm, the scientist refuses to carry out this order, because he has his own plans. Enraged by his disobedience, he shouts after him in rage, but he only leaves silently. He draws his bowstring, ready to teach him a lesson, but he only scoffs at his pathetic lectures. With a devilish grin, the enemy asks who he thinks he is, and this audacity shocks the scientist. With one movement, he disarms him, proving that he is not lecturing, but dispensing justice. With icy calm, he tells him to get ready, hinting that he will soon need help. With tears in his eyes, the scientist decides to do everything himself, not wanting to drag others into it anymore. But his enemy only grins, impatiently waiting for him to finally complete his task. The screams of hundreds of tortured souls echo in the darkness as he tries to save at least one of them. An enraged Farrell doesn't understand what this madman is doing, because his actions could lead to disaster. But the old sorcerer only grins, confident that the scientist knows perfectly well what he's getting into. He contemptuously declares that the hero has no idea who he is dealing with, and what force is opposing him. Suddenly, a huge demon appears out of nowhere, its ominous aura leaving everyone shocked. The sorcerer, horrified, does not understand what is happening while the monster looms over him with a devilish laugh. His eyes burst from the pressure and he falls dead, a victim of his own trap. The scientist explains with icy calm that this soul trap was supposed to suppress the enemy's aura, but something went wrong. With a devilish grin, the demon asks if the scientist really thinks he can control him with his own power. He gives him just a minute to finish his business and contemptuously tells him to disappear. But his blow proves too weak, and the monster only mocks his pathetic attempts. In response, the scientist delivers a series of crushing blows, proving that his power is not as simple as it seems. With each strike he learns, and his movements become faster and more deadly. He realizes that he misunderstood the armor's purpose, and that changing the hungry ghost was just the beginning. His attacks become useless, and the defeated demon falls to the ground, unable to resist. But the scientist does not give up, and his next blow turns out to be even more powerful and destructive. He admits with surprise that even in any case, he likes this new, unprecedented power. Motsu's 9 commandments against war merge into one, and his armor takes on its true, stunning form. The demon roars and explains that his armor is not designed for attack, but for absolute defense. With a grin, he asks how the scientist plans to injure him while he is in this indestructible shell. But he only smirked, because from his explanations he understood the main thing, the weak point of this armor. He tries to bypass the protection with the help of portals, but how can he stop the one who is in this turtle shell? Suddenly appearing behind him, he grabs him by the head, proving that strength and speed are his main assets. The defeated enemy falls to the ground, and the demon asks with contempt if everything is clear to him now. Motsu's 9 commandments against fatalism give it a new, even more destructive force. With a devilish laugh, he explains that this is the wrath of all the souls he has crippled, thirsting for revenge. He promises him that he will experience all their pain and suffering, enjoying every moment of his agony. An invisible flame engulfs the scientist's body, and his cry of pain is drowned out by the roar of hellfire. With a grin, the demon admits that he did not expect such resilience from the scientist in this unequal battle. But he shoots a golden arrow at him, proving that he too has tricks up his sleeve. With icy determination, he vows that he will not let anyone stop him from achieving his goal. But his enemy only mocks him, because this will not happen as long as he stands in his way. The demon reminds him that this girl is very important to him, and her life is in his hands. With fury in his voice, he blames the scientist for making so many mistakes because of her. Determined to end it, he strikes a crushing blow, ready to grind him into dust. But he unleashes his true power, and a stream of light throws the monster aside. Tired, a huge spirit appears behind him, and its power causes reality itself to crack at the seams. With his last breath, the scientist pronounces the name of his enemy, and horror freezes in his eyes. Inside the demon, he sees his old acquaintance, and this meeting does not bode well. It pierces him right through, and the pain of betrayal is stronger than any physical wound. With a wild laugh, he tears the heart out of his chest, enjoying his cruel victory. But instead of despair, a smile appears on his face, and he is happy that he was finally able to save her. The little demon transforms into his true, powerful form with a pop. He is furious that his enemy dared to interrupt this good show, and his anger knows no bounds. Suddenly, a new enemy appears out of nowhere, and its appearance takes everyone by surprise. But he only grins, promising that he will regret his arrogance. As if from nowhere, a creepy monster appears in front of him, its drool dripping onto the floor in anticipation. But the demon only smirks, reminding himself that he can't hit a girl in the face, even if she is a monster. Suddenly, his faithful servant appears, dragging a weakened Zoe behind him on a chain. With childish delight, he recognizes in the demon the very same guy who dared to offend his master. With sympathy in his voice, he asks if these battles were hard for them. In one movement, he picks up his ally in his arms, offering her a break from fighting. But his little servant goes into hysterics, mistaking the bow in the master's hands for a new toy. Confused by his tears, the demon tenderly explains that this is not food, but a formidable weapon. Meanwhile, Motsu watches this scene in horror, unable to believe his eyes. With a pleading voice, he asks to give him this bow, because only with its help will he be able to complete his plan. Throwing the bow down with ease, the demon grinningly offers the sage to take this toy for himself. With childish delight, the chef reaches for the legendary weapon, not believing his luck. But two great minds from the past immediately come to blows, unable to divide the artifact between them. At this time, the hero, whose body is half consumed by darkness, stands silently over the defeated enemy. The faithful servant hopefully asks if his master would like to resurrect the fallen scientist. But the young man bitterly admits that he is already in nirvana, and his soul has found eternal peace. He understands that there are things that should not be done, and he respects his enemy's final choice. With sadness in his voice, he suggests burying them together so that their souls can finally find peace. Carrying a weakened Zoe in his arms, he decides to return home, leaving behind the battlefield and bloody memories. But the words about the dragon's teeth still ring in his head, and he understands that this story is far from over. Looking at the wall of fire, the hero is perplexed and tries to understand what the hell is going on here. His old enemy admits with a grin that the experiment failed, but this is only the beginning. Having grabbed the soul of his ex, he promises that they will meet again, and the flame of revenge burns in his eyes. In the real world, the guy panics, not knowing how to explain to Chris the bitter truth about her parents. With a heavy heart, he decides to lie, realizing that the truth could kill her. With tears in her eyes, the girl asks if she will be able to see her parents again, and there is hope in her voice. Reluctantly, he promises her this, and their pinky vow seals this fragile lie. But deep down, he is tormented by doubts about why the Book of Life and Death does not contain information about the dragon's teeth. A sudden jolt of electricity shoots through his body, and he realizes with horror that the system has gone out of control again. A message appears on the screen about saving spirits, leveling up and expanding hell, and he is shocked by what is happening. Before the hero unfolds a majestic panorama of a new, expanded hell, where every sinner will receive what he deserves. But instead of joy, he screams in rage, not understanding why he needs this shitty extension. The system congratulates him on his level up, urging him to continue striving for the good of his underground kingdom. His loyal servants watch with affection the coquetry of their new ally, causing him only irritation. Trying to remain calm, he struggles with himself, torn between anger and despair. With cold determination, the boy realizes that leveling up could give him access to information about the dragon's fang. But the system disappoints him again, telling him that his overlord level is still not high enough. Enraged by yet another failure, the young man takes it out on his useless assistants. The wise Motsu tries to calm him down, reminding him that he shouldn't focus on such trifles. He offers him to look at something truly important, and a bright light flashes in his hand. The wise Motsu introduces a new weapon, the Undertaker Modi, and its primordial power is astounding. He explains that the 100 soul armor only has defensive potential, and that something more is needed to attack. Even the power of hundreds of souls proves insufficient for victory, and a new, more deadly weapon is needed. With confidence in his voice, he hands the Undertaker over to the hero, promising that he will definitely get used to it. The guy is confused by the strange name, not understanding why Sun Hao's weapon was so redesigned. The philosopher explains with a grin that whoever is hit by a shot from this pistol will no longer have to worry about a funeral. With excitement in his eyes, the young man understands that nothing less could have been expected from the genius Mo Di. But he is confused by the question about Sun Hao's weapon, because he does not understand how it is connected with this Undertaker. The legendary chef Riley reminds us that this isn't something that can be easily remade. Grabbing him by the scruff of the neck, the sage reluctantly admits that the god of cooking will still have to tinker with the sun-faced onion. The wise Mo Tzu reveals that this weapon originally belonged to the legendary archer Hu Yi. With fatherly care, he encourages the hero, urging him not to worry and to continue to hone his skills. He explains that the Undertaker is a great addition to the 100 Souls armor and can be used on its own. With determination in his eyes, the young man vows to prove that he is worthy of wearing this armor and wielding this weapon. But the philosopher only grins, because now that they are alone, the game is just beginning. Returning to the real world, the guy sees only a burnt hole in the wall where the portal was. The news reports a mysterious fire in a restaurant, the cause of which has never been determined. He realizes with suspicion that his hellish flames could not have incinerated an entire underground city. The puzzle begins to come together in his head. Someone is deliberately covering their tracks, hiding the truth about what happened. But he decides to postpone the investigation, since the disappearance of traces may be for the best. With cold determination, Farrell understands that his enemies will surely return to finish what they started. Chris's sudden appearance takes him by surprise and he jumps up on the bed in panic. She reproachfully reminds him that he is no longer a snotty boy to be upset over a breakup. He tries to brush off her concern, but deep down he is tormented by fear of the problems to come. The wise Mo Tzu appears to him in a vision, reminding him that he must not allow the level to rise before the estate can be expanded. With childish spontaneity, the girl asks where he is staring, not noticing his inner turmoil. Suddenly their idol is interrupted by an enraged Xianan, ready to arrest him for the mess he created. Frightened by her anger, the guy runs away screaming, insisting that he was just walking and did nothing illegal. He enjoys his small victory with a wild laugh, realizing that the walk really did turn out better than he imagined. But his fun is interrupted by an unexpected meeting. The mysterious stranger happily recognizes him as his little brother. With shining eyes, the stranger reminds him of their first grilled chicken, causing only bewilderment in the hero. A vague memory emerges in his mind, and he realizes with horror who stands before him. With a scream, he recognizes in him the very owner of the grill restaurant where all this devilry began. He proudly declares that he should be called nothing less than the Grill Master. But the guy is only concerned with one question. What the hell does he want from him? With passion in his eyes, he invites him to roast together, and this ambiguous proposal leaves the hero in shock. In a panic, he tries to escape, because he is a follower of the traditional grill, and is not looking for another one. The grill master is perplexed, not understanding what could be unconventional about ordinary grilling. The image of the legendary chef comes to mind, and he understands what kind of frying is being discussed. He recalls with admiration the amazing taste of the charcoal prepared by his friend, and suggests joining forces. With excitement in his eyes, the grill master suggests that they join forces and take over the entire grill business in the city. A sudden revelation strikes the hero, and he realizes with horror his main mistake. He remembers that he has the cooking god Ying, and his brilliant plan falls apart. With gratitude, he shakes the hand of his little brother, who reminded him of the most important thing. With childish delight, he rushes to the legendary chef, begging him to show off his talent. But he only turns away with contempt, declaring that he has not shown for many years. Enraged by his laziness, the boy hits him with all his might, demanding that he immediately become Chengxian. With excitement in his eyes, he invites him to become the chef in his restaurant, and this offer changes everything. A huge crowd of ghosts gathers in front of him, and he realizes with a grin that his plan has worked. A mysterious figure emerges from the shadows, and his question sounds like a challenge to fate itself. The mysterious stranger introduces himself as In Million from Sky, and his business card opens new doors. With a businesslike air, he offers to discuss an important matter, and this offer sounds like a challenge. His words about the hero being living proof of how a commoner can become a great master are intriguing. Arriving at the place, the guy is surprised to realize that he was taken to a luxurious office in the city center. The secretary obsequiously escorts him to the office, where the president himself is already waiting for him. At the table sits the Southern Ocean Master Xiao, his wise gaze piercing through. The hero is perplexed, not understanding why such an influential person needed to meet with him. The old man explains that he has 2 reasons for this meeting, and each of them can change his life. First, he thanks him for ridding him of that bastard Brian, but there is a threat in his voice. Secondly, he asks him to fulfill one request, and the crime scene photographs leave no doubt. With a confident smile, Farrell asks why the master is so sure that he can help him. The old man reminds him with a grin that not everyone could destroy Brian under the protection of the heavenly bow. He understands that Sun Hao was no small fry and his death would have serious consequences. The master of the Southern Ocean declares that now the hero is simply obliged to help him, because he is in his debt. As a reward, he offers him a briefcase filled with money, and this deal seems too good. But the young man slams the case shut with disdain, making it clear that he cannot be bought with meager handouts. With a sly grin he agrees, and the old man realizes that there is some catch to this matter. With icy calm, the guy declares that he can no longer tolerate this poverty and is ready to do anything. Returning home, he realizes that he has gotten himself into a long and complicated story from which there is no way out. With a devilish grin, he realizes that they will have to risk their lives for this money. With fury in his eyes, the reincarnated ghost vows to protect his master from any threat. But Zoe only reassures him, not understanding what her master is talking about and what danger threatens them. With a grin, he realizes that these people will never understand how amazing the Book of Life and Death is. The wise Motsu is perplexed as to why Satan is asking him about such an obvious thing. Enraged by the system's useless tasks, the guy breaks down, unable to tolerate this farce any longer. He bitterly admits that it is a shame for Satan not to understand his own Book of Life and Death. As a last hope, he asks the sage to help him understand the book, because he was trying to make a copy of it. The philosopher laughingly admits that although he didn't succeed, he knows enough about the book to help. Like a teacher, he reveals to him the secrets of the Book of Life and Death, explaining its true purpose. He says that this book is not only for counting lives, but also for affirming them, and it also brought him back to life. The wise Motsu reveals the main feature of the Book of Life and Death in one word: conditionality. Like a teacher at the blackboard, he explains to his perplexed student the essence of this philosophical concept. The hero is shocked by how simple and complex everything is at the same time, and a plan is born in his head. The philosopher gives the example of a tree, showing how each event is connected to the previous and subsequent ones. All these events are recorded in the Book of Life and Death, creating a continuous chain of cause and effect. But the most important thing is that this connection can be changed by rewriting the past and changing the future. This is why they can go outside without any problem, because the book has erased all traces of their incident. However, such changes do not pass without a trace, and can lead to unforeseen consequences. The more events are connected with a person, the more difficult it is to change his fate without destroying everything around him. But this time, the Book of Life and Death has made changes so that ordinary people will never know the truth. Enraged by his own impotence, Farrell screams that he is Satan, but can only change such trivial things. The wise Motsu reminds him that he can only change things because he is Satan. He explains that nothing in this world happens without a reason, and hopes that the hero will be able to build hell anew. With a last ounce of hope in his voice, he says that they have not waited for him for so long in vain, and there is faith in his words. Returning to the real world, the young man reflects on the old man's words with a grin, not knowing that he already knows everything about him. He realizes that their goal is to trap him, and his loyal servants immediately panic. Zoe anxiously asks what they should do now, but the hero just brushes off her concerns. With icy calm, he declares that they don't need to do anything, which leaves his allies in shock. He explains that this incident is not an ordinary conflict, but something much more. Behind the shadow of each of them lurks a mysterious figure, and this is only the beginning of their long and bloody game. The young man acknowledges his dark side with icy calm. The young man watches the helpless girl on the floor with cold blood. The scientist is surprised to realize that he underestimated the hero's true potential. His colleague is horrified to realize that he has encountered a real monster. Fear and admiration mix in his gaze when he sees true power. The cook has a premonition that good intentions may lead to death. The scientist casts aside his doubts, completely trusting the fate of the world into the boy's hands. The two people in the room have no idea what a brilliant and dangerous plan is brewing in the distance. The hero's eyes flash with fire as he vows to never let something like this happen again. The boy embraces his demonic powers, preparing for the inevitable and brutal war. The young man, engulfed in a flame of determination, vows to go to the very end. He burns a fortune by defying temptation and choosing his own path. The hero is distraught when he realizes that the battle will require more than just strength. The guy is ready to walk through fire and blades, because his goal justifies any means. The young man makes a fateful decision, cutting off all escape routes. Burnt money is just ashes, a reminder that the true battle is not for wealth. He understands with a smile that every obstacle overcome only strengthens his spirit. A demon girl suddenly appears and threatens to devour everything in her path. Her rage gives way to tears of gratitude to the one who first saw her as a person. The heroine's vow to protect him at any cost awakens an uncontrollable power in the boy. The demoness and the boy cry out to their master in panic, not understanding his sudden actions. The heroine clings to the guy in despair, realizing that he has destroyed their only fortune. The cunning female agent gloats because she managed to obtain valuable information about their plans. She plays the role of a heroine in public, hiding her true and dangerous intentions. The young man senses a hidden threat, realizing that the enemies have chosen too daring a location for a base. Scattered photographs form an ominous picture, revealing the terrible secret of this place. He realizes that the conspiracy is in effect right now, and there is no time left to think. A sudden vision reveals the dark secrets of a mountain village, and the young man realizes that things are much worse. The boy accepts the challenge, feeling the dark forces gathering to destroy him. The devilish grin on his face promises his enemies cruel reprisals for their arrogance. The demoness, looking guilty, reports that her search was unsuccessful. Under the bloody moon, the young man feels that time has been irretrievably lost. The sudden appearance of a stranger on the roof takes him and his companions by surprise. He is in shock because the presence of strangers ruins all his carefully laid plans. The guy suddenly grabs the female agent by the hand, not giving her time to come to her senses. There is determination in his eyes. He must take her away before it is too late. The young man takes her into the shadows, and the atmosphere between them becomes tense. He exposes her deception, revealing that he knew about her spying all along. The hero desperately screams that now is not the time for games, and they are both in mortal danger. A sudden flash of light from underground interrupts their argument, heralding the emergence of a new threat. The guy's demonic hand pushes the female agent away, protecting her from an unknown force. A powerful enemy imprisons the white-haired warrior in an impenetrable dark cage. Finding himself trapped, he realizes that he can no longer escape from this monster. The heroine watches in horror as a dark hand pushes her away, ordering her to save herself alone. A massive hellhound looms over them, but the true threat does not come from it. The girl realizes her helplessness and decides to find a way to help him from afar. Hiding in the forest, she watches in horror as a giant monster appears. The roar of the monstrous beast shakes everything around, foreshadowing imminent death. The white-haired warrior stands fearlessly before the beast, commanding it to submit to his will. A boy with a shining weapon fearlessly deals a crushing blow to the giant beast. The monster's powerful jaw breaks with a crunch under the onslaught of an unknown dark force. The demonic warrior mockingly declares his superiority right in the monster's mouth. The demoness, holding the boy in her arms, states with relief that they survived the fall. A sudden blast of light pierces the beast, and it lets out a deathly roar full of agony. The entire team unites in a desperate battle against a new, even more sinister threat. The female agent is suddenly struck by a terrible realization about the true nature of this monster. Watching from afar, she anxiously hopes that the heroes will be able to cope with this nightmare. The heroine tries to suppress her anxiety by reminding herself of her main and dangerous task. The boy unleashes his hidden power, delivering a furious and decisive blow with his magic chain. The boy, with the last of his strength, restrains the furious beast with an unbreakable chain. The white-haired warrior unleashes all his might on the monster in a blinding flash. The monster responds with a deadly beam, and the demon orders everyone to take cover behind it. He becomes a human shield, taking the blow to protect his comrades. At the very last moment, their combined strength withstands the onslaught of destructive energy. The demonic warrior easily repels the attack, demonstrating his overwhelming superiority. He reveals with a grin that he was only toying with the enemy, testing the limits of his strength. The ancient demon draws his true weapon, preparing to deliver the finishing blow. Hiding behind his back, his companions await the end of the battle with trepidation and hope. After his victory, the boy enthusiastically anticipates a feast from the defeated giant monster. The demoness furiously scolds the boy, but a new threat is already rising in the crater. Realizing the danger, the entire team quickly leaves the battlefield, running away from the enemy. The boy fearlessly stands in the monster's way, preparing to face its fury alone. The heroine screams in panic as she sees her charge being consumed by a sinister dark force. An ancient warrior tries to stop the demoness, realizing that her intervention will lead to disaster. The boy's face distorts with dark energy, and he realizes that his worst fears have come true. The monster offers itself as food, but behind this offer lies a cunning trap. The beast lets out a furious roar, unleashing all its primal, indomitable power. Even the powerful demon looks at the boy with doubt, fearing the consequences of his actions. He happily declares that everything is fine, because he simply ate something that could have destroyed them all. The boy falls to the ground, exhausted, and his friends realize with horror that he has absorbed something deadly. The wounded warrior casts aside his doubts, because now something much greater than his own pain is at stake. A scientist suddenly appears and reveals the terrible truth about the evil spirit that was extracted from the demon. He, in a rage, orders the warrior to fight the spirit inside the boy before it consumes him completely. An ancient demon takes aim with a massive weapon, preparing for a risky shot on the brink of life and death. The demoness tenderly embraces the weakened boy, carrying him away from the epicenter of the battle. An evil spirit in the form of a beast challenges the warrior, not intending to give up without a fight. A powerful demon unleashes his true power, declaring that no one shall commit evil with impunity. A female agent delightedly finds a clue that could change the course of history. She realizes in horror that her worst fears about the cursed altar have turned out to be true. A female agent discovers a horrifying truth in the archives. The monster was just a victim. She points her gun at her target with cold determination, ready to do her duty. At the most crucial moment, she panics and realizes that she is left without a single bullet. Faced with an unnatural flame on the altar, the heroine realizes that her enemy is not of this world. She casts aside fear and doubt, because she has a more important and urgent mission. Having grabbed the mysterious artifact, the girl rushes away, hoping that her guess is correct. She runs through the dark forest, and in her heart burns a desperate hope for salvation. The mighty warrior can barely contain his pain, humiliated by his sudden weakness. He mocks his wound with contempt, because immortality makes him invulnerable. A giant beast looms over him, hinting that there is something eternal and stronger in this world. The giant beast prepares to attack, but the ancient warrior only smirks, foreseeing its defeat. He feels the enemy's insatiable thirst for battle, preparing to fight until his last breath. Suddenly, the warrior allows the monster to bite him, because he has his own insidious plan. The demoness looks at the sleeping boy with alarm, not understanding what dark force awakened them. The female agent runs towards the warrior with a scream, carrying in her hands the only key to defeating the beast. The monster opens its mouth, ready to swallow her along with her last hope for salvation. The girl's eyes are frozen in mortal horror. She is saying goodbye to life, one step away from her goal. A sudden blast of light stops the beast, preventing the irreparable from happening. A mighty warrior saves her at the last moment, teaching the monster a lesson in good manners. The heroine looks at the artifact in amazement, realizing that the monster's fate is now in her hands. The mighty warrior throws the beast aside in rage, for he has more important things to do. He commanded the monster to be silent, and it submitted to his unbreakable will. Suddenly, a mysterious creature appears in the artifact, and the warrior does not understand where it came from. The artifact transports him into the past, into the hazy memories of an ancient and sinister altar. He understands that this vision is trying to reveal to him a secret that he has long forgotten. The bloody moon in the sky reminds him of a terrible eclipse he once witnessed. The beginning of the ritual echoes in his memory, and he realizes with horror that it was a sacrifice. The vision shows cruel people dragging an innocent victim screaming in horror in a cage. The warrior watches what is happening in impotent rage, powerless to change the events of the past. The memory reaches its peak, showing the victim bound on the altar, ready for a terrible fate. A cruel priest with an icy smile promises his victim that her torment will soon end. Under a bloody lightning bolt, he raises his dagger, forever cutting the thread of someone else's life. A mighty warrior rushes forward in desperation, trying to stop the ritual, but no one sees him. The crowd cheers as the priest announces the successful completion of the blood sacrifice. He punches the ground in rage, realizing that he is stuck in a past he cannot change. The priest's last words, like poison, banish the soul of the victim into eternal oblivion. In the present, the young man offers the creature in the artifact a chance for a new, better life. The liberated soul longingly seeks its future, promised to it after death. An explosion of spiritual energy shakes the world as a soul realizes its future has been stolen. The ghosts of the past cry out for vengeance, and an ancient warrior silently vows to destroy them all. The ancient warrior bitterly realizes that the promised sacrifice was never destined to be born. Before him appears a monster woven from the endless agony of unfortunate souls. Consumed with righteous anger, he unleashes all his power to end this nightmare. Surrounded by a whirlwind of suffering, a warrior holds in his hands an artifact that has become a beacon of hope for lost souls. He realizes that the monster's rage was just a cry for help, and now his only goal is to destroy the cursed altar. He addresses the being within the artifact, realizing that freeing the souls will require a shared sacrifice. With a heavy heart, he deals a crushing blow, forever destroying the artifact and their shared destiny. Tears stream down his face as he is unable to accept such a cruel and unfair ending. The liberated soul rushes towards him, and he realizes the true meaning of his title. He accepts the soul into himself, finally realizing that the title of Satan is not a privilege, but an eternal responsibility. Through tears, he denies his pain, because the burden on his shoulders is much heavier. His companions scream in horror, unable to understand the terrible price he is paying for their salvation. A warrior despises his wounds, because his physical pain is nothing compared to the centuries-old suffering of his souls. Looking at the ghost of the victim on the altar, he realizes that his suffering will never compare to theirs. He sees the endless cycle of pain, and decides to break the chain of reincarnation, no matter the cost. In the distance, scientists watch him in awe, realizing that he has mastered a power beyond life and death. He becomes a guide for lost souls, fearing that they will get lost in the abyss of despair. An unknown force binds his companions, as the battle has reached a level inaccessible to mortals. He proclaims himself to be Satan, the judge of the underworld, who owes these souls a new life. The young man appears in his true form, ready to take on all the grievances of the world and restore justice. The scientist realizes with horror that the hero is trying to endure the 1,000-year-old pain of the entire world alone. The guy is drowning in the abyss of other people's suffering, ready to sacrifice himself for the sake of redemption. In a moment of despair, he feels unworthy of the great power that consumes him. The girls watch helplessly as he suffers, bound by a mysterious force that prevents them from intervening. The cook is in a panic and is ready to take extreme measures, unable to watch his master go crazy. The scientist stops him, because he is the only one who believes in the young man's true intentions. He creates a barrier, vowing to protect the boy from anyone who dares to interfere with him. The man shouts in rage that a hero should not have to pay for the sins of people long dead. The cook attacks him, because he too cannot stand aside when his friend sacrifices himself. The scientist takes his blow, resigned to the fact that now all they can do is believe and pray. The scientist, with unwavering faith, declares that he will never allow a tragic ending. The soul thanks the young man with tears, because he was the only one who did not turn away from them. The wounded guy sits on the ground, but with a smile he assures that he doesn't feel a drop of pain. The girls run up to him in alarm, surrounded by grateful and peace-filled souls. In the shelter, the scientist and the cook argue about whether the hero is worthy of such a sacrifice, and whether it is luck. They understand that only by going through unimaginable suffering could he become worthy of the legendary sword. In despair, they shout at each other, because it is too late to retreat, and what to do next is unknown. A sudden flash of light illuminates everything around them, and they freeze in awe, not understanding what is happening. In a pillar of divine light, the reborn and unharmed hero appears before the girls. He looks at his hands with delight and surprise, realizing that everything is over and he is completely fine. The scientist and the cook stare at the legendary sword in mute amazement, unable to believe the miracle that has occurred. The demoness, with tears of joy, throws herself into the arms of her master, not believing that he is alive and well. He hugs her with a warm smile, putting off all apologies for later, because the main thing is that they are together again. Now that the souls have gained freedom, the young man faces a new, even more difficult question about their future fate. Hundreds of suffering souls are drawn to the light, seeing in the young man their only and long-awaited savior. They bow before him in eternal gratitude, and he accepts their homage with the dignity of a true master. A sudden revelation shocks him, as he realizes that the underworld has betrayed and abandoned these souls to eternal torment. The soul thanks him with tears, because he was the only one who did not turn away from them in the darkest hour. He firmly states that he was obliged to intervene and restore justice, since the gods themselves had turned away. In despair, the soul cries out that he is wrong, hinting at a terrible secret that he has yet to learn. The soul recognizes that past sins do not matter, because redemption lies beyond life. The united souls, with tears in their eyes, thank the young man for his boundless mercy. Their shared gratitude knows no bounds, for he sacrificed his body to grant them eternal peace. The guy, confused, tries to stop them, realizing that their path to freedom is not over yet. He resolutely blocks their path, because their complete liberation is his main and unbreakable oath. The hero unleashes the divine power of all-forgiving love, the only way to heal their tormented souls. In the shelter, the exhausted cook falls to the floor laughing, not believing that his worst nightmare is finally over. The scientist looks with a shadow of a smile at his friend, who, unlike him, allowed himself to show weakness. He turns decisively to the hero, knowing that he now has to make the most difficult and important choice. A scientist hides a terrible secret from a friend, because some truths can hurt more than any weapon. The scientist decides to hide part of the truth from the hero, taking with him a secret that could change everything. He bitterly admits that the young man is not yet ready to accept the full weight of his true mission. The cook accepts his decision with a heavy sigh, realizing that now his duty is to be there for his friend. A man in glasses calls upon an ancient power, preparing to single-handedly do what the hero did not dare to do. He vows to take care of lost souls in the name of Satan, taking on a monstrous responsibility. A sea of lost souls obeys his call, seeing in him their new, unexpected master. The cook looks with admiration at the hero, who, despite his fatigue, looks incredibly powerful. The young man ironically asks if his friend is making fun of him, which makes him blush. Suddenly becoming serious, the cook grabs the young man by the clothes, reminding him of the danger that has not yet passed. The young man accepts his fate with a heavy sigh, because it is the memory of the past that gives him strength. The cook, in a rage, lashes out at the scientist, unable to hide his fear for his friend's life. The man in glasses ironically recalls his unshakable faith, which bordered on madness. The cook scolds him for feigning calm, since failure would have meant disaster. Their argument subsides when they see the hero at peace, and a fragile hope settles in their hearts. The boy rises to his feet, his quiet smile heralding the beginning of a new, even more dangerous chapter. With a devilish grin, he gives the order, hinting at a plan that will make everyone's blood run cold. His friend tries to dissuade him, realizing that training in hell could change him forever. The cook runs away in panic to find a way to help, leaving the scientist to deal with the consequences. The young man, feigning resentment, blames his friends, because he has figured out their secret and risky bet. The scientist explains with cold curiosity that his risky plan was just a scientific experiment. Broken into dust, he admits the youth was right and prepares to reveal the main secret of this place. The hero watches in complete confusion the strange worship of his usually arrogant companion. The man in glasses states with calm confidence that they have missed one vital detail. He reveals the terrible truth that this place is a trap where souls lose their past forever. The boy realizes with horror that the only way to save souls has been cut off forever. The broken wheel of karma becomes a symbol of the universal tragedy that condemns hell to eternal suffering. The scientist proudly proclaims the hero the new master of this cursed and godforsaken place. A cold horror grips the young man when he realizes that he himself has now become an eternal hostage of hell. The man in glasses says goodbye forever, leaving the hero alone to rule his new dark kingdom. The scientist admits with a heavy sigh that it is the real Satan, not the fake one, who stands before him. The guy demands more explanation, but the man in glasses just walks away, leaving him in the dark. He admits his cunning with a grin, but hints that it is too early for them to know the whole truth. The young man complains about the situation with feigned indignation, hiding the true extent of his power. The chef presents his discovery with delight, unaware of the chain reaction he has just set in motion. The scientist looks at the artifact in shock, and his friend admits that he has already tried to burn it without success. The man in glasses slaps the cook in the face, trying to bring him to his senses and make him realize his mistake. He furiously demands a report, trying to understand what other destruction he managed to commit before this. The cook dismissively brushes off the details, dragging the scientist along with him and not wanting to explain anything. He tries to calm everyone down with a nervous smile, but his darting eyes reveal mortal fear. The cook explains with theatrical delight that this time the ancient artifact's reaction is completely different. The legendary weapon no longer burns, but consumes the flame, awakening an insatiable hunger within itself. A hungry spirit awakens inside the artifact, and the scientist realizes in horror that the reincarnation never took place. The chef, with a mad grin, offers himself as a guide, ready for any outcome of the experiment. With a devilish smile, he calls upon the spirit to feed, wishing to see its true and monstrous essence. He stands fearlessly before the roaring flames, demanding that the artifact finally reveal its true nature. The cook confidently declares that any problem can be solved, because they have a way to bring their master back to life. Two friends unite in the face of an unknown threat, because now they have nothing to fear. A firm handshake seals their union, but a shadow of doubt and anxiety can be seen in the scientist's eyes. The young man reflects on his reward with irony, expecting nothing but another headache. He mockingly points out the lack of chairs, making fun of his invisible interlocutors. The demoness, with a sly smile, wakes up her little charge, who has not yet realized anything. The boy hides his face in embarrassment, and the hero calms him with a smile, understanding his mixed feelings. The shocked child realizes with naive horror that for the first time in his life he has encountered a real miracle. The female agent looks at the hero in bewilderment, not understanding with whom he is having this strange conversation. She looks around suspiciously, but sees no one but the two of them, and her doubts only grow. The guy easily dismisses her suspicions, attributing everything to a simple conversation with himself. Suddenly he becomes serious, because he has more important things to do than empty talk. The young man turns to the girl with sincere gratitude, because without her help he would not have managed. The female agent proudly rejects his gratitude, because for her it was just a matter of duty. She pushes the young man away in a rage, trying to get rid of the uninvited and too mysterious companion. He suddenly grabs her hand, and this bold act takes her by surprise, causing a storm of indignation. The young man, with a sly smile, invites her to follow him, because something unknown awaits them ahead. Suddenly the girl weakens, and he picks her up, realizing that she is not as strong as she tries to appear. Meanwhile, the demoness unceremoniously drags the resisting boy away so that he doesn't get underfoot. The heroine furiously demands an answer to where he disappeared to again, finally losing patience with his antics. The guy apologizes with a guilty look, but she just looks at him coldly, not intending to forgive him. He tries to charm her with his smile, but she stubbornly turns away, not giving in to his tricks. A mysterious beast suddenly appears, interrupting their argument, and now it is up to him to decide who belongs here. The young man reflects with a bitter smile on how fate could have led him to such an absurd dead end. The cook watches the chaos with cynical curiosity, ironically calling it a mortal battle. His comrade grimly agrees, taking dark comfort in the fact that they at least managed to survive. The female agent's patience finally snaps, and in a rage, she decides to take the situation into her own hands. Driven by a sense of duty, she casts aside fear and prepares to meet any danger head-on. She bursts into the room, boldly asserting herself and preparing for the inevitable and brutal confrontation. Her sudden appearance causes fierce jealousy in another girl who was with the hero. Caught between two fires, the young man, completely exhausted, begs them to stop this farce. In a rare moment of calm, he reflects with relief on how miraculously they managed to avoid disaster. But the peace proves deceptive when, with a sinister grin, he calls upon dark spirits to serve him. The young man approaches the door with a heavy premonition, preparing for another unpleasant encounter. Surrounded by his loyal demons, he anxiously prepares for battle, not knowing who their enemy is. He realizes with horror that his own servants could turn against him at any moment. But instead of a mortal threat, a menacing landlady appears on the doorstep, demanding rent. She looks at the defeated demons with disdain, not understanding why she came here at all. The embarrassed guy bows as she leaves, apologizing for the disturbance and promising to fix everything. He is left completely bewildered, as his grand battle has turned into a complete farce. With a headache from everything that happened, he sends his wayward servants on reconnaissance. The demoness and the boy accept the order with enthusiasm, ready for new adventures and exploits. They take to the skies to survey their surroundings, unaware of the danger that awaits them ahead. An uneasy calm oppresses the young man, because he senses the approach of an inevitable and fateful meeting. Suddenly he finds himself in a mysterious place, bound by an unknown force and face to face with a stranger. The mysterious figure disdainfully ignores his questions, as the hero's identity is far more important than her own. Hiding her face, she asks with a grin about his future, hinting that everything has long been predetermined. The guy, with bold confidence, declares his plans to become the new Satan and restore the destroyed hell. A sudden flash of light blinds him, and he panics as he realizes that this was only the beginning of the test. The mysterious stranger notes his weakness with disappointment, without even deigning to glance at him. She reveals that only a select few were allowed in here, and only he was able to surprise her. Embarrassed and flattered, the young man, with a nervous laugh, tries to hide his pride behind a mask of modesty. She bitterly admits that in her entire life she has never met such a weak, yet amazing successor. Beside himself with rage, the young man shouts that he heard every humiliating word she said. She challenges him with cold contempt, knowing that he won't even dare look her in the eye. Losing patience, he angrily demands that she stop her riddles and finally show herself. His cries go unanswered, and he desperately begs her to at least give him some kind of sign. She turns away indifferently, realizing that any words now would be absolutely meaningless. She bitterly admits that with his current abilities, he will forget her immediately after this meeting. He freezes in shock, because she only came to warn him about the impending danger. The mysterious stranger regretfully admits that her strength is running out, and she will not be able to stay here for long. Disappearing into a stream of light, she leaves him with one last instruction: to work hard and regain his strength. He wakes up in a cold sweat, and her parting words about meeting again echo in his head. Waking up in a cold sweat, the young man realizes with horror that his nightmare was more than just a dream. Anxiety turns to panic when he realizes that he cannot remember a single detail of his vision. Suddenly he is overcome by an uncontrollable desire to become stronger, and he realizes that this is the only way. He turns to a scientist for help, because only he can help him gain true power. The cook watches him in surprise, glad that the boy has finally come to his senses and matured. The scientist looks at the hero with suspicion, not understanding what could have caused such a sudden and strange request. The guy himself cannot explain his motives, because this desire comes from the very depths of his soul. The man in glasses coughs doubtfully, realizing that such a thirst for power could lead to disaster. The cook turns away with feigned indifference, reminding them that their guest shouldn't know all the secrets. He unleashes his true power, preparing to show the hero what it means to be truly powerful. The chef, with a mysterious smile, admits that he himself is not as simple as he seems at first glance. He easily knocks out the scientist, demonstrating his hidden and unexpected power. A man in glasses, like a stern teacher, begins a lecture on the fundamental principles of strength. With his eyes shining, he declares that there are only two true ways to gain power. The first path is endless and grueling battles that temper the spirit and body in the fire of battle. The second way is persistent and monotonous training, pushing physical capabilities to the limit. He regretfully admits that he can't help in battles, but he has something for training. A sphere of pure energy flares in his hand, capable of greatly enhancing the potential of any being. The young man is enveloped in a powerful flow of energy, and he feels his hidden power awakening. He looks at his hands in horror and delight, realizing that he has become the owner of an incredible and dangerous gift. The young man emerges from the strange cocoon in horror, not understanding what kind of joke has been played on him. He falls to the ground in pain, his body suddenly feeling clumsy and heavy. The scientist calmly explains that this invention will help him save energy. The guy gets furious and snaps at him, because he's exhausted after barely taking a couple of steps in this damn device. The man in glasses shakes his head reproachfully, because the hero completely failed to understand the true intention. He reveals his insidious plan, to force the young man to make incredible efforts for any movement. He proudly declares that fighting with this device will replace any physical training. In a fit of righteous anger, the young man hits the brilliant inventor on the head with all his might. Gritting his teeth, he accepts this cruel challenge, awakening his demonic power to fight. Two onlookers applaud in amazement, amazed at how quickly he was able to adapt. The scientist enthusiastically points out the young man's hidden potential, preparing him for a great transformation. In a blinding flash of light, the hero takes on a new, incredibly stylish and powerful appearance. He looks into the mirror with narcissistic amazement, unable to believe that this handsome man is him. His shock gives way to a smug smirk as he embraces his stunning new appearance with ease. Embarrassed and grateful, he awkwardly adjusts his hair, still not quite believing his reflection. In a fit of childish delight, he beams with happiness, blessing the day when he met his brilliant mentor. The ice between them melts, and they laugh together like old friends, forgetting about subordination and rank. But the friendly atmosphere collapses when the boy, in a fit of rage, deals the scientist a crushing blow. Standing over his fallen mentor, he looks at his hands in surprise, feeling an incredible lightness. The scientist, rubbing his bruised head, reveals his brilliant plan with a grin, because this was real training. A scientist reveals that a stylish raincoat is an ingenious device for continuous and grueling training. The boy is amazed at the genius of the plan, and gratefully accepts this harsh but effective gift. Having completed his training, he eagerly moves on to the next stage, ready for real and dangerous battles. With shining eyes, the young man addresses the mysterious screen, demanding his first combat mission. His hope turns to disappointment when the screen goes silent, but the sudden answer leaves him in complete shock. A mysterious stone slab appears out of nowhere, and he realizes that this is not just a task, but a real test. The AI confirms the mission, and the tension in the room builds in anticipation of details. An ominous mission to go to the cemetery makes him wonder if there might be a deadly trap hidden behind it. Despite the risks, the young man enthusiastically accepts the challenge, because for him, it is just another step to the top. With a devilish grin, he vows to solve this mystery, ready to face any anomaly head-on. The hero calmly plans a night raid, patiently awaiting the return of his demonic servants. The female agent, mustering all her willpower, brings him a stack of secret documents for the upcoming mission. He looks at her in surprise, not understanding how she managed to bypass strict prohibitions and obtain this information. She explains with slight irritation that she merely compiled publicly available information to save him time. Shocked by her dedication, he sincerely thanks her and vows that he will definitely repay this debt. Confused, the guy brushes off the praise with a disarming smile, because for him it was just a matter of duty. Her patience snaps, and she declares with embarrassment and anger that protecting people is her direct responsibility. Suddenly becoming serious, she asks whether these documents are needed to investigate the mysterious incident in the mountain village. A cold horror grips him as he asks the ultimate question: how many more such monsters are lurking in their world? The guy, with a thoughtful look, suggests that there are many more such monsters lurking in this world. His imagination paints a terrible picture of an ancient evil that has awakened from its slumber and thirsts for revenge. A cold sweat breaks out on him as he imagines how many innocent souls were lost in this cursed place. The female agent asks with concern in her voice how dangerous their upcoming and risky mission is. With a show of bravado, he jumps off the table, assuring her that he will take care of everything, no matter the cost. A shadow of doubt flickers in her eyes, but she just stands up silently, preparing to leave and leave him alone. He jumps up from his chair, offering to walk her home, but his voice betrays hidden worry and anxiety. She declines his help with a slight smile, but her hand on the door handle trembles treacherously. As they part, she hopefully asks if she was of any use to him, looking for approval and recognition in his eyes. He looks after her with a warm smile, because the answer to this question was obvious from the very beginning. The young man looks with warmth after the departing girl, because her help was truly invaluable. She cries in despair, blaming herself for failing to protect people and failing her mission. In a fit of rage at herself, she bangs her head against a tree, because a real police officer shouldn't cry. Gathering all her willpower, she vows to work even harder to become stronger in the future. The room is in chaos as the lovesick boy throws himself on the neck of his handsome and powerful master. Having collected all the necessary documents, the hero announces to his team that it is time to move out. The boy laughs with delight, because their team always operates under the cover of night, like real shadows. They arrive at a deserted cemetery, and the young man realizes that he is unlikely to meet anyone here during the day. Having collected his thoughts, he tries to develop an investigation plan, but does not know where to start. Suddenly, he grabs his little companion and launches him into the sky with a scream, beginning his mad investigation. The young man sends his little scout into flight with a cry, giving him his first serious task. The demoness enthusiastically rushes after him, ready for any dangers and surprises. The hero watches his team with pride, admiring their zeal and complete dedication. His smile turns to cold determination, because now it's time for him to get down to business. A strange pink glow emanating from the graves attracts his attention, and he senses an ominous aura. The boy scout lands and suddenly catches a familiar scent that awakens dark instincts within him. The demoness panics and tries to stop him, as his uncontrollable desire to bite everything could lead to trouble. In the distance, a scientist watches the bloody river with alarm, feeling the hostile and alien energy growing. The hero and his companions finally realize that they are not alone, and their enemy is already very close, ready to attack. The cook tries to hide his anxiety behind a mask of indifference, assuring them that they are in no danger. But the scientist feels a powerful wave of long-standing resentment emanating from the cursed and god-forsaken place. A sudden realization leaves him in shock, and he realizes with fury how much they have underestimated their enemy. The hero, not understanding the reasons for his panic, finds himself forcibly pulled from his mission by a mysterious force. In a shocking twist, the cook cold-bloodedly stuns the scientist, leaving the young man completely bewildered. With icy calm, he explains his actions, claiming that he only calmed his colleague down for a few seconds. The guy shouts in rage that he has calmed him down forever, but the cook remains unperturbed and cold. It turns the focus to the real cause of panic, hinting at something far more terrible than death. The cook reveals the dark secret of this place. Only hostility reigns here, but the souls have long since found peace. The young man looks at him doubtfully, not understanding whether this is good or bad for their mission. The cook bitterly admits that it would be better for the underworld if he remained in ignorance. He reveals the terrible truth. Hell has long ceased to exist, and the balance of the worlds has been disrupted. With a heavy heart, he asks if the young man remembers how exactly they ended up in this strange place. The hero, confused, admits that he only had vague guesses, but he could not have imagined such a thing. The cook's gaze turns icy, and he confirms his master's worst fears. It reveals the boy's true potential, the ability to summon them at any moment, like the mighty Satan. The guy screams in rage that he never had a chance to be reborn because he was torn out of the reincarnation cycle. The cook, with a slight smile, reassures him that their disappearance was not his fault, but merely the result of other people's mistakes. The scientist, who has come to his senses, reflects bitterly on the injustice, because now he understands why his colleague is so angry. He explains that unlike powerful beings, pawns like them only have one chance to earn forgiveness. He explains bitterly that the souls of mere mortals, unlike them, simply disappear over time. Rebirth erases all the sins of the past, but the choice of path remains with the soul until the very end. Suddenly, a monster woven from pure and unbridled malice appears before the cook. He reveals to the hero a dark secret about souls that, after an unjust death, are doomed to wander forever. The cook talks about two paths for lost souls, one of which leads straight to hell. With a mysterious smile, he admits that thanks to the young man, he discovered a third, completely new method. The cook regretfully admits that their path is different, and they cannot grant souls true salvation. He explains that expulsion by force only creates more pain, because souls will not accept such liberation. He mercilessly uses his colleague as an example, hinting at the sacrifice required for this. A mysterious voice from the past reveals that saving 100 souls is only possible at the cost of one. The cook shouts in rage that this is pointless, because the hero will sacrifice himself for others without hesitation. He desperately tries to convey that souls do not need sacrifice, because their only desire is forgiveness. The hero, with a bitter smile, realizes his mistake, because he was so blind that he did not see the obvious. In despair, the cook admits their complete powerlessness, because no matter how hard they try, it is impossible to save souls. With an icy grin, he challenges the young man, knowing that he is incapable of the necessary cruelty. The guy, perplexed, demands an explanation, not understanding what his mysterious and cunning companion is hinting at. The scientist, awakening, reveals the terrible truth with pain in his voice. Repeating his actions will blacken the hero's heart. Despite the pain, he tries to reach out to him, because he himself went through this hell and knows the price. The cook, with a devilish smile, admits that all this was done for his own good, for a great purpose. The young man looks at his companions with suspicion, demanding that they finally reveal all their secrets to him. The servant tries to convey that the master is holding him back only because of a deep-rooted sense of guilt. He bitterly explains that it doesn't matter what kind of soul is in front of him, because he cannot afford to show weakness. The cook sums it up with cold calm. When the soul disappears, its resentment and anger disappear along with it. A sudden revelation hits them all, and they realize that there is only one logical explanation for this situation. The scientist's gaze turns icy as he realizes that someone is deliberately holding the souls by using their anger. The energy of malice accumulated by the souls explodes, and the hero takes the full brunt of the blow, transforming. With a devilish grin, he looks forward to the coming battle, which promises to be completely different. He leaves, telling his stunned companions that he is not in the mood to deal with them now. With cold confidence, he declares that he will wait for their explanations, but now on his own terms. The scientist can hardly contain his irritation, not understanding where his usually silent colleague gets so much talkativeness from. The cook, with a mysterious smile, hints at a secret plan that even his closest ally is not privy to. A sudden insight makes the scientist go cold, because at this rate, they risk losing their master's trust forever. With cold pragmatism, the cook leaves, convinced that their cruel but necessary plan is better than certain death. He takes the flaming sword in his hands with trepidation, anticipating a once-in-a-lifetime spectacle. Enveloped in crimson flames, a transformed hero enters the arena, radiating a dark and irresistible power. The mysterious stranger greets him with a mad grin, relishing the fury he himself has provoked. He mockingly suggests that the hero's anger is caused by the pitiful cries of innocent and tormented souls. A tear rolls down his face, but his smile remains cruel as he revels in the echoes of others' suffering. Surrounded by ghosts, he admits with chilling calm that he too hears their eternal sobs. A mysterious stranger with a mad grin admits that he enjoys the suffering of the souls that fall into his hands. The hero interrupts him with icy calm, because true rage is born only from the powerlessness to change anything. He coldly acknowledges the soul's right to anger, but his calmness only further infuriates the enemy. In a fit of rage, the villain rushes to attack, but the young man only laughs at his empty chatter. With shining eyes, he declares that, unlike his enemy, he is always ready to answer for his words. With one crushing blow, he sends his opponent flying, proving his complete and undeniable superiority. His hand, shrouded in darkness, becomes a symbol of new strength born from pain and compassion. Grabbing his enemy by the throat, he furiously explains what real rage is, not just feigned rage. The hero's gaze turns icy when he finally understands what feelings the tormented souls experience. He mercilessly pushes back his enemy, because behind him there is already a new, even more dangerous opponent. The young man watches his fallen enemy with an icy grin, as the game is just beginning to get more interesting. Under the bloody moon, his team looks at the transformed hero in horror, not believing in his monstrous power. He looks at his opponent with disdain, calling him a pathetic monster that no one will acknowledge. At this time, his faithful companions enter into a fierce battle with another monster, defending their master. He proudly declares that he never fights alone, because he always has loyal friends behind him. With a sneer, he reproaches his enemy, who at the decisive moment can rely only on one woman. Suddenly, the enemy takes on a new, even more powerful form, and his fury becomes almost tangible. The villain acknowledges the hero's impressive skills with a devilish grin, but this only makes him more tempted. He mockingly invites the young man to test his new power on himself, confident of his inevitable victory. The guy accepts the challenge with fury in his eyes, because he is tired of empty chatter and is ready for the decisive fight. The enemy scornfully rejects the offer of battle, as he has more important things to do. The hero, in a rage, accuses him of cowardice, not intending to let his enemy go without a fight. The villain mockingly explains that he is not afraid, but is simply going to leave, leaving behind a replacement. In his place, a new, even more ferocious and dangerous warrior appears on the battlefield. She rushes into an attack with fury, but the young man easily stops her blow, demonstrating his superiority. A cold fire flashes in his eyes, because he will never allow a man to escape from the battlefield. Suddenly, his loyal servants appear behind him, but the enemy only mocks their weakness. With a devilish grin, he declares that he will have to fight himself, hinting at a cunning plan. The guy is shocked to realize that his opponent is himself, and now he has to fight his reflection. The hero blocks the blow with difficulty, amazed by the incredible speed and strength of his opponent. He screams in shock, not understanding how his enemy could develop his monstrous abilities so quickly. Suddenly, a new monster appears in front of him, and he coldly points his weapon at it. He notes with disdain that this piece of trash has been overpraised, as it is not that strong. In the shelter, the scientist shouts in rage that the weapon is not to blame, because the hero is a real bastard. The guy, with icy calm, decides to first block the enemy's movements to deprive him of his advantage. Suddenly, an enemy appears behind him and mockingly declares that his minions are real weaklings. He is distracted by the mysterious flame, but the enemy only orders him not to be distracted from the battle. A sudden and crushing blow pierces him through and through, and he realizes in agony that he is trapped. He looks at his enemy in fury, realizing that he was only playing with him from the very beginning. The hero, in a rage, pierces the monster through and through, but this is only the beginning of his righteous anger. His loyal servants continue their battle, but the enemy turns out to be much more cunning and agile. The boy screams in rage, unable to accept that their enemy has escaped so easily. The demoness stops her ward, because pursuing the enemy blindly is too dangerous. The villain is surprised to realize that among his enemies there is someone who is capable of thinking strategically. With a devilish grin, he offers to reveal the secret of the mysterious flame, but there will be a price to pay. The boy angrily accepts his conditions, demanding that he immediately tell them the whole truth. The villain's face twists into a mad grin as he reveals that this flame is the very essence of suffering. He explains with relish that he uses souls as fuel, reveling in their eternal agony. With cruel joy, he encourages them to continue their anger. For the greater their rage, the more pain they bring to souls. The young man, with cold confidence, predicts his enemy's death from his own fire of rage. The villain, with a mad grin, advises him to take care of himself first, hinting at a deadly trap. A sudden shot pierces the hero's head, and he realizes in shock that he has fallen into a trap. His faithful servants scream in horror, but the villain only mocks their helplessness and naivety. With a devilish grin, he reminds them that in battle they must use not only strength, but also brains. With one crushing blow, he knocks out his henchwoman, proving his superiority. He looks at the defeated warrior with contempt, calling her worthless and useless. The villain shouts in rage that the blow did not deprive him of his fighting strength, but he missed the main detail. The hero notes with a cold grin that his opponent underestimates him too much. He throws the defeated girl aside with contempt, ordering her to get out with her worthless master. The young man angrily swears that his enemy will die in agony, but he only dismisses it with contempt. The villain easily repels the attack of his loyal servants, because he expected much more from them. With one powerful blow, he throws them aside, demonstrating his overwhelming superiority. The demons look at their enemy in exhaustion, and he only turns away from the pitiful sight in disgust. He takes pleasure in remembering the despair in the eyes of souls before consuming them and turning them into his own power. With a devilish grin, he summons a magic chain, preparing to captivate his opponents. The boy desperately tries to stop the chain with his bare hands, but only gets a painful burn. His hand turns to ash, and he realizes with horror that he has encountered a force beyond his understanding. The villain mockingly notes that he will never get tired of this despicable and pathetic look. He admits with surprise that the heroes were able to astonish him by returning alive from the cursed mountain village. With one crushing blow, the hero knocks out the monster, but this is only the beginning of his battle. He ironically asks his enemy if he was afraid of his sudden return. At the top of the cliff, under the full moon, the villain delightedly admits that he feels absolutely happy. With a devilish smile, he declares that he finally has the chance to kill the hero with his own hands. The loyal servants unleash all their might upon him, but their attack only amuses the powerful enemy. He reflects with feigned fear on how he managed to survive such a devastating attack. The demons are furious when they realize that their enemy is only playing with them, deliberately provoking them into anger. With cold indifference, he encourages them to continue their anger, because it is part of his insidious plan. He explains with pleasure that they are just toys that have spent all their strength and are unable to attack. With a devilish grin, he anticipates their reaction when they find out that all this time they were just pawns in his game. The hero materializes the weapon with cold calm, preparing for the decisive and merciless battle. He asks his enemy in bewilderment if he really hates him that much. The villain denies hatred with a mad laugh, because his true feelings are much deeper and darker. With fury in his eyes, he screams that his only desire is to tear the hero into little pieces. His faithful minion rushes into the attack with a roar, ready to carry out any order of her master. With one crushing blow, the young man knocks her out, demonstrating his complete superiority. He looks with contempt at his defeated enemy, because insects should behave like insects. The The villain remembers with bitterness his dead comrade, who was killed and abandoned like trash. He angrily accuses the hero of preventing him from capturing the souls and carrying out his plan. The guy is shocked to realize that his enemy knew about souls all this time and deliberately manipulated them. The young man looks at his enemy in bewilderment, not understanding whether the police information is a secret for them. The villain mockingly declares that they are professionals, for whom there are no secrets or barriers. He notes with irony that the hero's dog has managed to grow up quite well, but this doesn't frighten him at all. With cold confidence, he declares that they need not worry about any bloody river. The hero freezes in shock, as the mention of the bloody river reveals the enemy's true and terrifying intentions. The villain realizes with annoyance that he let it slip, but it doesn't bother him at all. He declares with a devilish grin that the hero will die soon anyway, and his knowledge is of no importance. With one mighty call, he unleashes the full force of the flames of destruction upon the youth. The faithful servants scream in horror, but the boy only looks at his enemy with cold contempt. The villain shouts in rage that the hero should have been dead long ago, unable to believe his incredible resilience. The villain reveals that 3 powerful masters are too interested in activating the mysterious blood river. He bitterly admits that the hero would not have escaped from the underground castle alive if not for their intervention. The guy notes with a grin that the bloody river seems to have great significance for them. His faithful servants watch their master with anxiety, for he ordered them to wait and not interfere. The enemy, with a devilish grin, confirms that the river is so important that for its sake, they allowed the hero to survive until this moment. A tense silence hangs between them, and each understands that this is their last and decisive battle. The villain looks back with contempt on his fallen comrade, who turned out to be nothing but a useless and pathetic piece of trash. He furiously admits that if he had not trusted him, he would not have had to leave that damned place. Suddenly, he is interrupted by the appearance of a new, even more powerful and dangerous creature. He angrily explains that he had to send his henchwoman away for repairs, thereby missing his main goal. The villain eagerly awaits the end of the battle, because then his master's great plan will finally come to fruition. With disdain, he reminds the hero that his job was merely to take care of useless and pathetic trash. He mockingly says that they even planted a mine on him so that he would not get underfoot and interfere. With cold confidence, he admits that this meanness only benefited the hero, making him stronger. He notes with irony that with such armor, the young man would be more suited to the image of a villain than a hero. The villain recalls with a grin how they themselves led him into the city so that he could cause a stir there. He admits that their plan was risky, but the result exceeded all wildest expectations. With devilish glee, he announces that this entire cemetery is nothing but a minefield ready to explode. A green flame flares up in his hand, a pure product extracted from suffering and pain. The hero, in a rage, demands an answer to what this bloody river is and what role it plays in their sinister plan. The villain contemptuously refuses to reveal his secrets, even in the face of certain death. With fury in his voice, he orders the hero to stop his questions and finally turn to ashes. He notes with a grin that the young man came here of his own free will, and now he has no one to blame. With one powerful movement, he launches a ball of green flame at the hero, intending to incinerate him. With a devilish smile, he admits that he couldn't wait for everything to calm down, because he was eager to punish the impudent man. The hero is surprised to realize that his opponent came alone, without warning anyone about his visit. The villain waves it off with irritation, because it doesn't matter to him whether he warned anyone or not. He asks with disdain if the hero really thinks that such a small bug will be punished. The guy rushes into the attack with fury, because for him there is a huge difference between an honest fight and a vile murder. In desperation, he realizes that he needs to buy time in order to destroy the enemy's entire organization after dealing with him. The villain mockingly reproaches the hero for being overconfident, not seeing him as a serious threat. With fury in his eyes, the young man vows to kill his enemy here and now, no matter what the cost. He calls upon the power of reflective light with a mad grin, but suddenly, a new, unexpected enemy appears. The mighty warrior in black armor wearily declares that he has had enough of empty chatter. With icy calm, he announces that the time has come to end this protracted farce. He asks with a devilish grin if the hero is upset by the fact that someone like him could surpass him. A painful memory of the past, where he was just trash underfoot, flashes through his mind. He bitterly admits that for such a cynical and insensitive person, being trampled is a real tragedy. The warrior, in a rage, declares that the hero's weakness is his greatest weapon, because the contrast between strength and weakness frightens him to death. He notes with disdain that the more the hero speaks, the more he hides behind loud and empty words. The warrior confidently declares that he is now far from being as hopeless as he might have seemed. He regretfully admits that some questions remain unanswered, but he will find them at the enemy headquarters. The villain smirks and notes that empty talk won't help the hero survive this deadly battle. He looks at the defeated warrior with contempt, because in any case she will die, and everything will have to start over. With a heavy sigh, the warrior admits that there is some sense in this, but he cannot lie to himself. The young man looks at his enemy with cold fury, realizing that all he is capable of is wagging his tongue. His loyal servants cry out in alarm as they see their master falling into an uncontrollable rage. With one crushing blow, he sends the warrior flying, but she immediately returns to the fight. The villain mockingly suggests that the hero deal with her first before trying to kill him. The guy blocks her blow with cold confidence, because he is completely confident in his strength and victory. The villain asks with a grin if the hero understands who he is really fighting. He proudly declares that this great achievement of their organization is second only to the mysterious Blood River. With horrible images of countless victims whose lives were sacrificed to further this monstrous plan come to mind, he relishes the story of how the perfect puppet was created from blood boiling with anger and suffering. A monster appears before the hero, a fallen puppet created from the pain and despair of innocent souls. The villain mockingly reminds him that the young man had already destroyed one such puppet, but it was only a weak copy. He delightedly reveals the most terrifying property of these creatures: their virtually inexhaustible vitality. With a sudden and crushing blow, the monster proves its incredible strength and continuous growth of combat power. The villain warns with cold confidence that if the hero considers her the same, he will suffer a crushing defeat. The hero easily defeats the puppet, admitting that she was able to surprise him a little. With one crushing blow, he destroys the earth, but this is only a distraction in his plan. The villain mockingly asks how he plans to win, since he doesn't even plan to fight him. With disdain, he reminds us of the uselessness of the fallen puppet, hinting at a hidden ace up his sleeve. The young man proudly declares that he is not alone, but his enemy only laughs at a couple of pathetic weaklings. The suddenly appearing demoness proves otherwise, dealing her opponent an unexpected and precise blow. The hero, with cold confidence, urges his enemy not to rely so heavily on his so-called puppet. The sudden attack pierces the villain through and through, and he realizes in shock that he underestimated his opponents. The guy ironically reminds him of his own words about how they have stopped underestimating him. He reveals his true strength with a devilish grin, for rage can blind even the most powerful enemy. The green flame consumes the boy, causing him to commit rash and dangerous acts. The young man confidently declares that the battle cannot be won by talking alone, and he does not intend to engage in combat. He bitterly realizes that fear of him prevents his enemy from fighting at full strength. The hero notes with surprise that his opponent did not expect that he would be able to injure his puppet so badly. With cold calm, he explains that the enemy did not attach due importance to his small but dangerous companion. He reveals that the green flame is the concentrated desire of souls to kill their tormentor, causing unbearable pain. This pain cannot be compared to what he experienced from his impunity and cruelty. With fury in his eyes, the boy swears that his enemy will die here, paying for his countless sins, but he scornfully rejects an easy death, for someone like him it would be too generous a gift. With a cold smile, he admits that his enemy was useful after all, and now he is ready for the final act of revenge. The young man realizes with cold determination that he now knows who he needs to stop next time. He looks at his companions in rage, not understanding how they could have done so much harm behind his back. Green flames devour the defeated villain, reminding everyone that fire is not to be trifled with. The hero doubtfully considers the possibility of restoring the puppet, but comes to a different conclusion. With icy calm, he decides to destroy her completely so that she can never cause harm again. With one precise shot, he incinerates the puppet's body. But this is only the beginning of his plan. In the shelter, the scientist and the cook engage in a desperate battle, trying to stop what has already been launched. The guy understands that they don't want him to destroy the body, because there is some secret hidden in it. A sudden realization hits him. The puppet has Sun Hao's blood flowing through it, and it might still be alive. No matter what secret she holds, he must act before it is too late. He bitterly admits that without her he would have been dead long ago, because she is his only hope. With cold determination, he declares that he doesn't care about any secrets, because the main thing is to protect her. He looks at his older comrade with concern, not knowing if he will be able to handle this burden. Confused, he asks how a ghost can eat, but his question remains unanswered. With a slight grin, he decides to let the situation go and just have a good time with his friends. Suddenly, he notices a strange trace on the ground, and cannot understand why he cannot see the souls of his comrades. He recalls the words of Elder Mo that souls without a master simply disappear over time. With pride and confidence, he proclaims himself the king of hell, embracing his true nature. He turns to his faithful servant, and a spark of recognition and hope flashes in her eyes. With a mysterious smile, he asks if she remembers Zhang Bin, and that question changes everything. With childish spontaneity, he apologizes for his curiosity, trying to defuse the situation. The demoness, with tears in her eyes, hugs her little charge, calling him a kind person. Her sincere joy and gratitude become the best answer to all his unspoken questions. He decides to ask directly, because innocent souls should not have found their peace in this place. A sudden realization hits him when he realizes that his faithful servant saw nothing. Without hell, the ancient soul of evil might vanish without a trace, and this realization fills his heart with anxiety. He bitterly wonders where the ordinary souls are if the strong ones were caught for the ritual. As he looks around the cemetery, he sees neither strong nor weak souls, and this gives him ominous suspicions. With a heavy sigh, he accepts his fate, realizing that he must rebuild the destroyed hell. He closes his eyes, preparing for a long and dangerous journey of 1,000 miles that begins with the first step. A mysterious organization emerges from the shadows, and their main goal is to find and destroy the powerful king. The elite Dragonfang team arrives on the scene to investigate a series of mysterious and violent events. The team leader screams in rage because they are late again, and their enemy has slipped through their fingers again. He looks at the dark remains on the ground with disgust, realizing that he has encountered a force beyond his comprehension. The foul smell awakens dark memories in him, and his face is distorted by a grimace of disgust and pain. The girl recognizes her brother's clothes with horror, and an icy thirst for revenge awakens in her heart. The guy lashes out at her in a rage, unable to bear her cold calm in the face of such a tragedy. A scream escapes his chest, as he blames himself for not being able to save someone who was dear to him. Hope flashes in their eyes, as they finally find a clue leading to the elusive and dangerous enemy. Returning from battle, the hero enters his room through a mysterious portal, not even suspecting that he is already being hunted. The hero looks at his little friend with concern, realizing that his healing will be long and difficult. With a heavy heart, he leaves his faithful companion to look after him and sets off towards danger. The memory of Galu's death, who died in his arms, comes to his mind, but he feels that this is not the end. A sudden realization leaves him in shock, and he realizes they need to act quickly before it's too late. With a smile, he asks his companion to take care of the hungry ghost, completely trusting her with his life. The demoness points to the wall in panic, trying to warn her master of the hidden threat. Meanwhile, in another place, a gray-haired man explains his risky and incomprehensible act with cold calm. He reveals that 2 Blood River souls that could rule hell were born in one body, and this is the key to everything. His interlocutor asks doubtfully whether the replacement is already in place, hinting at a hidden and insidious plan. With a heavy sigh, the old man admits that, in the end, this is just a substitute, not a true ruler. A mysterious adversary challenges him, and the hero realizes that it is a trap set by the king himself. He figures out the enemy's weak spot. He needs to destroy the Blood River to inflict maximum damage. With a devilish grin, he decides to enter the enemy's lair not through the main entrance, but by cunning. The yin-yang eye's renewal is strange, but the hero brushes off his doubts, because he has a plan. He decides to pretend to be a security guard in order to get inside unnoticed and catch the enemy off guard. The surprise is a great success, and he easily bursts into the room, taking everyone by surprise. With one crushing blow, he scatters all the guards, demonstrating his incredible strength. Like a tornado, he rushes through the room, leaving his opponents no chance of escape. With a feigned apology, he throws a shuriken, which easily pierces the wall and incapacitates the enemy. But the real surprise awaits him ahead, when a new, even more dangerous enemy emerges from around the corner. The hero calmly warns the hostages not to interfere with his dangerous mission. He decisively breaks down the door, making it clear that delay threatens everyone with imminent death. A sudden touch on his shoulder takes him by surprise, and an icy horror grips his body. The stranger, with a disarming smile, informs him that his boss has been waiting for this meeting for a long time. He unceremoniously violates personal space, and the guy is shocked and does not understand whether he is dealing with a friend or an enemy. The stranger's wild laughter echoes down the corridor, completely unsettling the young man. With sincere joy, he declares that his appearance is a real gift of fate at this decisive moment. Following his new companion, the hero cannot shake off the ominous premonition of impending disaster. A strange noise in the pipes becomes the key to solving the mystery, and he realizes that the secret is hidden deep underground. The stranger explains his sudden visit by citing concerns that small but dangerous animals might be hiding in the utility room. He insistently suggests that the hero change into a protective suit, but he hesitates, not understanding the reasons. Despite the cleanliness of the underground pipe, he grabs the guy by the collar because safety comes first. He screams in horror that he cannot allow the young man to go down there like that, hinting at a hidden threat. The guy, in shock, asks if he will go with him, because he did not expect such care from his new acquaintance. With childish spontaneity, he agrees, because it was he who brought him here and is responsible for him. The hero is amazed to realize that his companion has unexpectedly turned out to be a good and reliable person. With cold certainty, he concludes that there is definitely a mysterious bloody river hidden in this underground pipe. Suddenly he panics and decides to knock the guy out so he doesn't risk his life. With a devilish grin, he declares that since the young man is new here, it is better for him to stay out of danger. The hero freezes in shock, not understanding how this strange guy managed to read his thoughts. A stranger with a disarming smile offers his help, because he knows the way to the mysterious dungeon. His excessive kindness and friendliness bring the young man to tears, because he is accustomed to completely different treatment. With a sly grin, he notes that his new acquaintance is already starting to get nervous, and this amuses him. In a fit of rage, the guy screams at them to stop this circus, because he has no time for games. The stranger tries to calm him down with feigned fear, but his eyes laugh, revealing his true intentions. With these words, he is the first to disappear behind the door, leaving the hero in complete bewilderment and confusion. The young man looks at the protective suit with a heavy sigh, realizing that his updated yin-yang eyes are still not perfect. He decides to go after this strange guy first, because he needs to keep his cool before the upcoming battle. The stranger sternly orders the hero to stay close, but he only sleepily waves him off, not understanding the seriousness. They walk down a long corridor, and the tension increases with every step, because the unknown awaits them ahead. In the pouring rain, the girl looks at her hands with disgust, hating her weakness and helplessness. Her companion mockingly notes that with her strength, she should hate this weather, as it makes her vulnerable. With a devilish grin, he reminds her that her brother, unlike her, was especially powerful on rainy days. With these words, he picks her up in his arms and soars into the sky, promising to take care of everything. He moves forward, trying to suppress the growing panic, because he is sure that he heard something. Elsewhere, a red-haired guy waits impatiently, preparing a worthy welcome gift for his enemy. The girl looks around in bewilderment, not understanding how she ended up here and what awaits her ahead. The girl panics and tries to stop her companion, because they have just arrived and don't know anything yet. He touches the wall in horror, which turns out to be an illusion, and realizes that they are trapped. A sudden revelation strikes him, and he realizes with horror that they have found themselves in the magic circle of the southern seas. He is shocked and tries to understand what unknown force was able to transport them here so quietly and without a trace. His companion notes with cold calm that such teleportation requires a huge expenditure of energy. He realizes with dismay that such a powerful magic circle could not have been created in an instant. With cold confidence, he concludes that the troops of the South Seas are not as simple as they seem at first glance. Suddenly, the girl steps aside, and he asks in bewilderment where she is going at such a dangerous moment. She replies with icy indifference that she is just taking a walk, but her eyes reveal hidden anxiety and fear. He rushes after her in a panic, shouting that now is not the time for a walk, because something serious is happening here. The team leader looks at his sister with concern, realizing that this is not just for her safety. With tear-stained eyes, she begs him not to leave her alone, because she will not be able to survive another loss. He cries in despair, touched by her concern and love that he did not deserve. The girl confidently states that he cannot cope with all this alone, and she must be there. In a fit of rage, he screams that this is not true and orders her to follow him no matter the cost. Meanwhile, the hero and his new companion arrive at a mysterious door leading deep into the dungeon. He looks around in shock, amazed by the vastness and scale of this strange and ominous place. He notes with suspicion that this underground pipe is too strange, and that something is definitely wrong here. His companion waves it off with feigned indifference, assuring him that this is normal for such a large building. Elsewhere, the demons discuss their master with concern, unsure if they can help him. They walk down the corridor, and the hero notes with interest that this place is becoming more and more mysterious. His companion looks thoughtfully at the strange inscriptions on the walls, trying to decipher their meaning. Suddenly he recognizes a familiar pattern, and a cold horror grips him, because he understands where they ended up. The hero is furious and lashes out at his companion, because he didn't ask him to follow him into this dangerous trap. With tear-stained eyes, he admits that he is lost, because he constantly looked at the map, but still lost his way. He desperately shows the crumpled map that was supposed to lead them to their goal, but only led them to a dead end. The young man takes the map with distrust, trying to find a mistake in their route, but does not see anything suspicious. He looks at the map in bewilderment, unable to find the problem, until a brilliant idea strikes him. With a sly smile, his companion points out an obvious mistake. He had been holding the map upside down all this time. The hero, embarrassed, tries to hide his mistake, claiming that they were simply lost. His companion mockingly refutes his words, because he was in control from the very beginning. He proudly declares that he just wanted to go for a walk, but his confidence quickly evaporates. In despair, he falls to his knees, admitting that he has no idea how they can get out of this trap. The young man realizes with a heavy sigh that he shouldn't have relied on this useless and strange guy. Suddenly, an army of green ghosts appears in front of the other heroes, and the tension reaches its peak. The team leader screams in shock while his companion, with cold calm, states the obvious: it's a green ghost. He rushes into attack with fury, because now is not the time for jokes, and they are in mortal danger. He realizes with horror that this thing is much more powerful than he could have imagined. A sudden realization hits him when he realizes that the ghost soldiers emerged from the mysterious platform. The team leader realizes with horror that the platform looks like it is about to be emptied. The demoness notes with alarm that this place is truly strange and conceals an unknown danger. She furiously scolds her little charge because she forbade him to eat anything. In a panic, she tries to force him to spit out the mysterious object, but he stubbornly resists. At this time, in the dungeon, a stranger looks with curiosity at the strange green ball, sensing its power. Suddenly he jumps up and runs away screaming, leaving the hero completely bewildered. A huge boulder comes crashing towards them, and they realize in horror that they are trapped in a death trap. The hero screams in rage, not understanding where this stone came from, but his companion only waves it away in panic. They run away in horror, because he just touched something strange, and it started a chain reaction. Elsewhere, a red-haired man sits on a mountain of skulls, his gaze filled with cold determination and a thirst for revenge. The team leader searches for his sister in panic, not understanding how she could have disappeared so suddenly. From the mountaintop, he vows to find her, no matter the cost, and his voice echoes throughout the area. Meanwhile, the boy discovers with horror that there is even lava in this strange place. He tries to calm down, realizing that now is not the time to panic, and that he needs to act calmly. Having met the girl, he decides to first figure out how to find his master and her sister. Suddenly he realizes that he was separated from his companion, because of a mysterious and delightful bead. He turns around in horror, feeling that someone has just passed by, but he sees no one. The demoness looks around in panic, not understanding what happened to this place and where they ended up. Elsewhere, a gray-haired man notes with irritation that several rats have appeared and need to be dealt with. The old master realizes that opening the blood-red azalea will not be easy. He gives the order to his loyal subordinate, and he takes on this deadly mission without hesitation.